Sandra all the time is here with a cold heart true. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama, call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth telling, more problem solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. How's everybody doing? Welcome to class. How is everyone? Let me just get our IG link going. Okay. All right. I see Instagram sending me a warning about something. Okay. Okay. We got Blake and Aaron here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you?
Good. It's Monday.
Awesome.
It is Solar Eclipse Day. Turn around. Every now and then I look up into the sky and I see an eclipse.
Oh my God.
Turn around. Every now and
then. Don't look at the sun. I don't know.
So funny.
Working song.
Yeah.
Work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have special glasses for the eclipse?
No, I do not. I'm told that
Optical
I'm
Outlook
not going to get a direct
$8 or something.
Who has them for $8?
Optical Outlook.
Oh, okay. I think you can actually go by Kimata Bay, and the Astrology Association is going to be there, and they're going to hand out. I don't know how many they have, but whatever they have, they'll hand out.
Astrology Society.
Voodoo witchcraftery.
Only when we do it.
Yeah.
Listen,
Here we go.
I do not even want to go there. Can I tell you? We're going to go there.
Big news. I have some important news for you. Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
K-Man's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Hey, morning, Sandy. Happy Monday.
Good morning, Blake and Aaron. How are you guys doing? Happy Monday.
Yeah, it's Solar Eclipse Day. That's what makes today exciting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Are you prepared to watch?
No, is a short answer, but I can be.
Now we put up a little graphic on the Kiss FM Facebook page. It's 1061 Kiss FM. And it shows you kind of what we'll see being here in Cayman. We're only going to see about 30 or 40% max of the solar eclipse today from being down here in the Caribbean. You have to be in the path of totality, as they say, which is this little 100-mile swath across the middle of the United States.
If you're flying to Dallas.
Yeah, if you're flying to Dallas, you might see it.
I don't know what time Dallas
and
is.
the peak time will be right around, 1:30 to 2 o'clock, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
This afternoon. So,
okay. So
Yeah.
I do wonder though. I wonder if anybody's listening that can answer this question in terms of how cautious you have to be, even viewing it at 40%.
Don't look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not supposed to look directly at it unless you have some sort
Okay.
of. Now
I
I know we took Miles to get an eye exam, his first one,
Mhm.
and we know that Optical Outlook was selling those special glasses for like $8 or $9 a pair or
That's where I
something.
take my kids to go too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't
Okay.
need glasses, by the way, yet.
That's good. It's
Yeah.
good to get the check.
But if you want those glasses, I do know they're selling them. I don't know
Okay.
where. I don't know where else on island you can get those.
Commander Bay, you said? I know other people.
Yeah, I
talking
saw
about
something in the Commander Bay Facebook page that the Astrology Association would be giving some away for free,
Mhm.
and they're having like a viewing there, so you
Okay.
could go by maybe in your lunch break.
Nice.
All right.
All right. So over the weekend, it was actually a relatively quiet weekend. We had a barge on Saturday that ran aground near Crescent Point condos.
Oh, really?
So the Department of Environment made some assessments, or they said they were going to continue to make assessments of a section of the shoreline along West Bay Road to determine if any damage to the seabed or shoreline occurred after a barge ran aground in that area on Saturday. Cayman Islands Coast Guard received a report of a barge that appeared to have run aground near Crescent Point condos along West Bay Road, and the Port Authority was also alerted. And the owners of the barge were notified. So immediate action was taken by the owners of the Rebecca 7 to have it removed while it was resting on the coastline.
How
Alrighty.
close was that thing
Yeah.
to shore?
Pretty close.
It's pretty close. You could
Yeah, isn't it?
actually, it looks
saw
like
the
it was
photo.
almost touching there's like a little area of rock formation
Mhm.
off the land, and it looks like it was literally touching that. That's probably what kept it at bay, but you could probably almost walk out to it. It was in shallow water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is it
Yeah.
so close to the shoreline?
That's why they say it ran aground.
Yeah.
First planes, now barges. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
Baltimore.
It
Little
wasn't
Cayman.
supposed to be there. It wasn't supposed to be there, but yeah,
Well,
it
barge
was.
is not self-powered, so
No,
maybe,
I
maybe
know.
it broke
I'm
free
just-
from an anchor or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but looking at the footage of it, it's very, very close.
Hmm.
I'm surprised that anybody had to contact the owners. Like, do you not miss a barge? But here it is, Blake. Just FYI.
No,
Oh
it's
my
very
gosh.
close, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
It's like we're being invaded. Like waiting for, you could have troops come off that thing. On the shore.
All right. So,
wild.
a visiting nurse who was here for a wedding. Did you guys see this story?
Ooh. Yeah.
She decided to bring some illegal drugs into the Cayman Islands.
A
So just
nurse?
FYI.
A nurse.
Yeah,
suit.
of all people, yes, a nurse.
Okay.
Folks, just remember that you can't bring any illicit drugs, including cocaine and marijuana.
Oh my God.
7.15 grams of cocaine.
What?
Yeah. She's not smart. What is
yeah.
like? Yeah.
Well, she'll be done with school. That'll get her kicked
For a
out.
wedding last month, she
know.
was only fined $10,000.
For 7 grams?
Yes.
Wow.
Eugene O,
Okay.
31 years old, reportedly found guilty of 4 counts of importation of a controlled drug
That's a
when she
lot.
appeared in court last week. I know we're going to be talking about this week because something.
I mean, I know
Something-
that when you look at something where it's like, okay, you don't want prison resources here wasted because we're the ones that pay on it. It wasn't intent to sell. I can get both sides of things on
Mhm.
what everyone's saying. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
give another aspect because I've seen a lot of other comments, and so I just want to play devil's advocate on that.
I
Were you
mean,
going to the
if you're someone who actually lives in the Cayman Islands,
No, I still think it's wrong. I
Yeah.
still think if you're going to come in, you should absolutely face the same punishment that everyone else does. But I'm just saying that was the other side of
yeah.
what the
Mhm.
court was probably thinking,
Mhm.
because it doesn't seem right. $10,000 also when the other guy just got fined, 22 for ammunition?
Yeah, I think the how we treat visitors to this country who break the law needs to be reviewed.
Yeah.
Anywho,
Locked up
oh
locked
yeah,
up
she's got a $10,000 fine.
If she would have done that in Singapore.
She
Oh my
is
God.
an emergency room nurse in New Jersey.
Oh,
What?
she is? I thought she was a student. She's actually
gonna
No,
lose her
she's a
license.
nurse.
You're gonna
Oh
lose her
my-
license if they
yeah,
find out.
that's not you can't
Yeah.
that's not who you want someone treating you
No.
in an emergency situation.
She says that she's addicted
Oh.
and that she has been suffering from anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Well,
Anyway,
cocaine's not going to help.
No, that's gonna worsen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she came to Cayman for a wedding. And she basically said, I deeply regret the harm and disappointment my actions caused. Okay.
No.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one some more.
I thought she was a
Um,
student. I thought, never mind. This story is wild.
Yeah. All right. So child rapist now, alleged child rapist, Mr. Ellis Everton, has been formally charged. Cedric Everton Ellis, age 42, Jamaican national, who was recently wanted by the authorities, and then he turned himself in after the Easter break. He has now been formally charged with 2 counts of rape on a child.
This is where I want harsher punishments.
Yeah, for sure, without a doubt. Anyway, yep, we'll be watching this case extremely carefully, to say the least.
Wow.
Mhm.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
all I
okay.
can say about it at this time.
You have something warm and fuzzy after that?
Oh no.
There's a solar eclipse, lunar eclipse today. What is it? Yeah, solar.
Yeah, there's still a lunar eclipse apparently. Okay, let's see. No, but we got a feel good one for you that we can end on. Our CIPS officer will be serving as an acting commissioner in Montserrat. So congratulations to Superintendent of Police Roger Williams. He's currently in Montserrat, where he's serving as acting commissioner of police there for 3 weeks in that British overseas territory. So Robin Hall, who's the commissioner for the country's police force, faced an unexpected delay due to unforeseen operational policing matters, and Williams was sworn in by their governor, Her Excellency Governor Sarah Tucker, and by Chief, I guess it'd be His Excellency now, wouldn't it? I think we need to fix that. And by Chief Magistrate Vashti Chator, who is there in Montserrat. So starts tomorrow. Nope, sorry. It took effect from last week, April the 3rd. And Williams is going to be there for about 3 weeks. And then they have someone else, an Alex Enrilis from Gibraltar, who will be taking over as acting commissioner. So congrats. They say this is just continued collaboration between the OTs and, offering some assistance to neighbors. That's always nice.
All right.
Yep.
Okie dokie.
Well, I can tell you that since I'm back on the air this morning, I did not win the Powerball
Same.
Oh,
in
man.
the United States.
Sorry.
One ticket sold in Oregon.
I
Won
know, that's
the
pretty wild. What was it,
1.3 billion. 1.3 billion.
My gosh. Wow.
Close. It was close. I had my family in Idaho buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Right next to
You were close to winning?
that close.
The
A
cash
state away.
payouts almost 700 million.
I'd take it.
Wow.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, shout out to women's sports. I was
The best.
really intrigued over the weekend just watching all the NCAA action.
Who cares about the
Women's.
men? No one's watching the men's
The
anymore.
women's basketball was so exciting.
Yeah.
And I watched the final yesterday because it was 2 number 1 seeds against each other. It was number 1 Iowa with Caitlin Clark. She's been in the
she's
news a lot.
done
She's
now.
really good.
Yeah, she's done with her college career, right?
Yep. And number 1 South Carolina, who won, by the way. It was a great game. Went undefeated the entire season, 37-0. And wow, what a spectacular game yesterday.
Yep.
It was really great.
Women's sports are taking over.
Yeah. And the NCAA men's title is today, the championship game. 2 number 1 seeds against each other. And it will be UConn taking on Purdue.
Okay.
So that'll be exciting.
All right. Well, we're going to put you in charge of sports over at CMR.
You got it.
Yeah, I love the reports. Good stuff.
Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Aaron, what do you
Have
got
a
coming up
good
in the
day.
rundown?
Oh, well.
All right. Well, bye. That was abrupt. Oh, honey child. Good morning, everyone. We got CUC joining us this morning. All righty. Everybody good? Everybody had a good weekend? Okay. All righty. Well, as it turns out, we have a lot to talk about. Honey chill. Let me just save one thing here. How many of you guys are really good at budgeting? We got to do more of these financial budgeting courses. I know you guys are always saying to me, Sandy, thanks for the good advice. You know, when you have people on, or even when the civil servants had their, when they had their one-off honorarium or whatever they're calling it, the $1,500 they got from this current government, vote buying at its best, but nonetheless, some civil servants are very, very pleased to just take it and run. They're like, oh, I can use that money for whatever. And I said, do yourself a favor. Put that money straight on your mortgage principal. Don't, sorry. Do not, under any circumstances, frivolously spend it. One guy, he did message, he's actually works in schools, and he messaged and said that he had been smart with his money, and he actually, paid off a piece of land early. He's like, thank you, Sandy. I'm like, you know how much interest you save yourself when you make one extra payment, just one payment a year on your mortgage? Imagine if you could throw on even more than that every month, a couple $100 here and there, it all adds up. So I'm wondering how many of you guys, Alexa, stop. Something went wrong. Of course, something goes wrong every day, but I'm not even talking to you. I don't know what's going on with her. So yes, there's a lot that we can do, little micro movements. You know what I think? Most people are looking for like the big movement, like how do I do this in a big, big way? And I keep telling people it's the micro stuff that can really make a difference in your lives. Small little movements with that budget. It's like the concept of compounded interest. You know, every little bit, $100 a month, $100 a week. You think, oh, that's no money, that's drinking money. But it really does have a way of adding up in a short time. So I fancy that most people don't even have any idea what they spend on what. You know, it's really easy. Many moons ago, we'll chit chat a little bit till CUC jumps in. But many moons ago, when I started my business, I would use QuickBooks to track my business expenses. And then it occurred to me, why am I not putting in that same kind of time and energy and effort into tracking my personal expenses? And you know what? The one area that can be very tricky, where you probably spend a lot of money and you don't even know it, it's eating out. Legit. Eating out, entertainment. So going out and having drinks with your friends. You know, a lot of times you just do not realize how much money you spend. I love CNB's alerts now. You know, every time you use your debit or credit card, you can sign up for alerts either by email or by text. And then you can go back through those for the month, add them together, tabulate them, put them in categories so you can see exactly where your money is going. I'm telling you, some of you really, 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 really be surprised. You're like, oh my God, I'm making all this money, but I'm not saving anything. You'll see exactly where it's going. So, oh, excuse me. Got a little tickle in my throat, honey child. Miss Marjorie. Good morning. She says 51 years today she's been living in the Cayman Islands. Thank you, Lord. Miss Marjorie, you're originally from Jamaica, right? I think, is that where you're from? Jamaica or... remind me, Jamaica or where else would I guess? Trinidad? I think you're from Jamaica though. Jamaican Indian? All right. Well, 51 years is a long time, honey child. You came to Cayman right before I was born, looks like. Yes, sir. Good stuff. Miss Dean. Miss Dean. Broke Mooring, says Damien. Good morning to Shaka Zulu and the CMR fam. Siobhan is in the house. We got the usual suspects here this beautiful Monday morning. Good morning to Cayman Kind. We're going to talk about that this morning, Miss Romelia, so hang tight. Siobhan says just about everything needs to change in this country. Majority of things here are a joke. Oh my gosh, not so negative on a Monday. Oh no. Oh my goodness. Well, not quite, Siobhan. We got a lot. We got a lot going on that's positive, I can tell you. So it's just one of those things, though, where, you focus more on the negative because we're trying to hopefully solve problems in this country. And so as it turns out, a lot of times we're trying to be constructive in our commentary. And it does kind of come across as, oh my gosh, that's all we ever talk about. But we have good moments where sometimes we just want to think about the good things. Okay. Okie dokie. Yep, I got it. All right, so we're waiting on our guest to arrive. I see one, and the next one is going to be on shortly. Not a problem. Just doing roll call. Yes, Siobhan, we're going to come to that. Morning, Ingrid. Charity begins at home. We'll talk about that. I think this is a positive situation, by the way, Irvelin. Sorry, Kim and Kind made that comment. Love the top, says Siobhan. Thank you. Baby blue. All right, folks, let's go ahead and waste absolutely no time this morning because our guests are very, very busy and they are joining us here on the program. We've got, I think, Mr. Richard Hugh. I want to say this might be your first time in the program or second time. Let's see. Let's see if this is his first time. Good morning, sir. Is this your first or second time?
Good morning. No, second time.
Second time. Okay, wonderful. So, folks, most of you will know this gentleman, but I'll give you a proper introduction anyway. This is Mr. Hugh, who's president and chief executive officer at, and by the way, it's Richard Hugh, not Joey. I'm sure you get it a lot. My apologies. I think I just made a Freudian slip there and called you by your brother's name, but of course he is the head of CUC, president and CEO of Caribbean Utilities Company. And of course, no stranger to the program, regular guest on the show is Mr. Sasha Tibbetts, and Sasha is vice president of customer service and technology. So they are here to talk about a few things this morning. And in particular, we want to focus on utility scale solar. Now that sounds like a fancy term. So we're going to break it down in terms of exactly what that means and why that's something that CUC is keen to inform people about and really also to, hopefully get on board with here in the Cayman Islands. So first of all, can we get, Sasha, perhaps you can answer this question, just a working definition of what exactly utility scale solar is. What does that mean?
Sure. Yeah, there's no real precise definition, but usually when people think of utility scale solar, they're thinking of large solar farms that are used primarily just to generate power into the grid, and then the grid then distributes it to all the customers on the grid. So these are large enough that you would call it a power plant. One example that people would be familiar with locally is the Boddentown solar plant is a utility scale plant. And the sole purpose of that is to generate electricity and put it on the grid for sale. So just think of pieces of land that are developed, or perhaps floating on water as well, developed for the purpose of selling electricity to the grid.
All right. So it's basically solar on a larger scale. Now, Mr. Richard, by comparison, I think most of the consumers, when we think of solar, we're thinking of solar panels like on our homes, like a little, shed out back on a much smaller scale. What is the difference between the two in terms of their scalability and benefits, really?
Well, you do get a lot of economies of scale. So the large utility scale solar farm will give you much lower costs. And that is a significant benefit. It's not unlike today where you could have a little generator on your house for standby or what have you. And, compared to the large generators we have here at the plant, which are, feeding into the grid at a much lower cost than, if you use your generator. So it's the similar technology, much larger scale, much more efficient to do it. If you look at rooftop, for instance, rooftops were not designed to orientate perfectly with the sun to get the maximum sunlight. So on a utility scale solar farm, you can arrange those solar rays to maximize the amount of energy you're getting from the sun. So things like that make the amount of output you get from the same panels greater with the utility scale. But just because you have a single installation which may be giving you 10 to 15 megawatts versus 5 kilowatts, the difference in size is going to give you much lower costs. So we're estimating 10 cents or less for utility scale. That's per kilowatt hour for utility scale solar panel, utility scale solar farm, as opposed to rooftop, which is now selling into the grid at 15 cents and 17 cents.
Okay.
15 for the larger, for the 10 kilowatt installations, and 17 cents for the smaller 5 kilowatt installation. Recognizing that with the smaller units, you're going to have less economies of scale, and so the price is going to be higher.
Okay. So the idea then is if we do like a solar farm, you have individuals, the entire country has the potential of benefiting from that, as opposed to individuals who have to work it in their budget to try to put solar on their homes. Is that essentially what I'm hearing you say?
Exactly. Yeah. So one solar farm can be like 9 to 10,000, the equivalent output of 9 to 10,000 rooftop installations, and that one solar farm feeding into the grid brings a lot of energy to the grid, clean energy at low cost, which can be enjoyed by all consumers connected to the grid.
And if, I'm sort of thinking about this because right away I can hear a critic in my head saying, "Oh, but then that allows CUC to continue to be in control, as opposed to you taking control by having solar panels on your individual house." So let's talk about that criticism. Perhaps Sasha, you might have some thoughts about this.
Sure. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that the large solar farm would be ours. First of all, the way that those farms will come about is through a competitive process that Ofreg's planning to run, I suppose, sometime within the next few months. So I don't think it would give us control specifically. Now, it may very well be that we have the most competitive solution for that RFP. And if that is in fact the case, well, whoever brings the most competitive solution, provided that the quality is good, the process should yield the best option for consumers, whether it's CUC or a third party. So the statement about CUC promoting utility scale solar so that it can retain control is flawed in many ways as a result of the fact that it is a competitive process that we do not control.
I think it's worth mentioning, Sandra, that the only utility scale solar plant on the island now, the Boddentown Solar, is not owned by CUC. It's owned by Blue Mountain Renewables, BMR.
Right. Okay. So, and there was a competitive process for that as well?
Yes, we conducted that competitive process. We didn't participate ourselves.
Okay.
At the time, we were very busy with other things, making sure that the grid was stable, etc. And so under the competitive environment, we conducted the bid and we didn't participate ourselves. In this round, that Ofreg is going to conduct the solicitation, we hope to participate in that competition.
And do we have any idea of the time frame of when this round might begin? I think there's a real problem with a lot of delays. Ofreg seems to take a while to do certain things. So how long have we been talking about this particular competitive process, and when are we expected for it to go out to tender, so to speak?
Yeah, there have been many delays, but from what I'm seeing, I think they're focused on it now, and we should not be too far away from them issuing the bid. And that's the information that I have at this stage.
Mm-hmm. And what does it look like? Do you have any idea how many people are in a position to even compete for this type of a project? CUC said this time they will. I'm assuming the existing facility in Boddentown would probably be a logical competitor as well.
Yeah. They're the OfReg did conduct a request for qualification RFQ process where they qualified certain bidders. Any licensees in Cayman, so that would be CUC and Boddentown Solar, existing licensees would be qualified. And then we have a few more. I think there are 6 to 7 competitors who are going to vie for this first project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Now let's talk a little bit about. I found this interesting. I know you guys have been going around doing presentations, and the media was included in your round of presentations, really working through in great detail, not just how this works, but even, how solar is a solution that doesn't get you 100% reliability. There are other factors that will be taken into account. So I want to look at a few of the available slides that you have here, right? So, and can I just ask you to speak to something which I thought during the presentation was a little bit surprising to hear, that our reliability for just continued power, where we don't have rolling blackouts and that sort of thing, we're like on the verge of not being as reliable as you have been. So I want you to talk a little bit about why that's happening and how something like the utility solar would actually assist or not, sort of getting you past that potential hurdle.
Okay, so the slide is just showing the solid black line that's moving up from left to right. The scale for that is the left-hand scale in megawatts, and it's showing our system demand overall. So all of the electricity that customers across the island are demanding. And it's starting at 84 megawatts and making its way up to over 100 megawatts. At the time frame on the bottom, it's hard for me to see because it's
mostly just daylight hours.
Yeah, but it's in the afternoon hours, going from left to right. So morning till afternoon. The red line is, and that's the right-hand scale, is the output from Boddentown Solar. And on a given day, some days it may be better than that, some days worse, depending on cloud cover. But it's showing starting out at about 2.5 megawatts, peaking at 4.5 megawatts. But what's interesting is you can see the rapid drop off of output from time to time as cloud cover goes over that plant. So this was just an illustration to show how consistent and constant the demand on the electricity system from all of the consumers are. And we are trying to match that with output from the solar farm, which is intermittent. Now, what you can do, and this is to illustrate the issues that we have with solar in particular, when you are trying to provide reliable service, and you have, and this is no different from rooftop solar. You will see the same when clouds pass over, that your output from these solar farms or rooftop installations fall off immediately. So here at our plant, we have to balance that output with our diesel engines right now. What we are proposing, or what the OFREG will be soliciting is utility scale solar with batteries paired with it, so that you would see where the output from this solar farm is falling off. If you had that paired with batteries, the battery would fill in there and we would have a more constant output. So the solution really going forward for utility scale is to pair it with solar so that we have a more constant output. And CUC's job of balancing the grid, the supply and demand, will be a little easier than it is now.
So one of the things, I know recently we had an interview with Sasha about your LP, remind me of the exact
LNG.
LNP, right?
LNG.
LNG.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right, which is the liquid gas. And so there are people who say, why are we going that route of looking at that as a sort of, it's almost like a hybrid to getting to solar. And I know that CUC is talking about gearing up to put out some bids for that instead of just going straight to solar. So can you explain that a little bit? I know that you did in your previous interview, but I think there's still some people who are a bit unsure about why you're taking almost like an additional hop over to solar as opposed to just getting there. So that's liquefied natural gas, to be clear.
Well, right now, the world is trying to go 100% renewable. We are trying to do that as well. It is a long-term goal, but we still don't have a renewable technology that can affordably take us through to the last 20 or 30% of the energy that we need on the grid. So if you let's think about solar, for instance, and let's say we were 100% solar with batteries to take us through the night. If we had enough batteries, long duration storage batteries that could take us through every night. But then you do have weeks where you have, it's hot, but it's cloudy. And even if it's not hot, but it's cloudy, we won't have solar output. We won't be able to charge the batteries. So what do you do at that point? So that's the last 20 or 30% that the entire world is looking at, and how do we get around it? They're talking about green hydrogen, using solar to produce hydrogen, to use in either fuel cells, or it could be combusted in engines as well. So knowing that we can't get to 100% right now, what is the solution? Use the diesel for backup, stay with diesel, or do we get something which is cleaner, 30% less CO2 emissions, less particulates, so no soot, nothing like that. And also, very importantly, lower price and more stable in price. So we are desperately trying to get away from the diesel instability in costs. The balance of oil output and diesel is a distillate, it's a derivative of oil, is very precarious right now. It's the US does not control it. The US uses more oil than it produces, and so the balancing act comes from the Middle East, and you either have the cartel setting, the OPEC cartel setting the prices at the level that they wish, or you have instability in the region which drives prices up. So we're desperately at CUC trying to get off this diesel price roller coaster, as well as trying to meet the objectives of the targets set at the Paris Climate Accord, which is to reduce our emissions by 60%. And so if you look at LNG over the next 15 to 20 years, if we use that as the backup, we do reduce costs. Very importantly, there are a lot of stakeholders out there who, would like to get into the industry that believe that cost is not important. Well, I can tell you that I do not have a conversation in the public that people do not ask me, when is CUC going to reduce the cost of electricity? And we're desperately trying to do that through LNG and utility scale solar, but it's not in our control. We can only lobby. On the LNG, we are now, we're about to issue a request for proposals for companies who can supply on island natural gas to us. And once we have those proposals in place, we'll have a look at them to see whether it makes sense for us to move over to natural gas.
And so, to be clear, the potential move, because we should say that this is not a definite yes, this is something that you're exploring. And can we talk about what will determine whether or not you actually go in that direction or not?
Well, price, security of supply, also environmental performance. So I know there are concerns have been expressed about the LNG business or the natural gas business as a whole, and some of the in production, some of the issues that there's some of the view that LNG is dirty, it's not clean because of the methods they use to take it out of the ground. However, we have to compare LNG to diesel because there's nothing else. We can't compare it to solar right now because LNG will be burned in our engines and will bring that stability to the grid and what we call a dispatchable resource, so that at any time that we need electricity, we can rely on it. It's not waiting for the sun to come up or, we do need the reliable backup to solar. And right now, there's nothing else that can do it for us besides the diesel or the natural gas. And looking into the future, the diesel engine manufacturers have already started to test the engines on hydrogen, which would be a cleaner fuel. The issue with hydrogen is that today it's very, very expensive to produce.
So really, it's a balance between, I hear, these different factors, cost obviously being an important one, the environment, volatility, and probably just ease of how easily you can get it, which will impact things like cost as well.
Yes.
We have an interesting graph here that says the best mix energy. So let's talk a little bit about this. And then I do have a question specific to liquefied gas as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I can take.
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can take this one. So this is it's a bit of a confusing graph, but it's part of the output of our integrated resource plan that we did some 7 or 8 years ago now. And what it shows is sort of the planned resources based on the analysis done by that study. And this was sort of the plan that provided the least cost and delivered all of the environmental benefits, with the environmental benefits being a target of complying with the Paris Accord, i.e. a 60% reduction in CO2. And we came very close also to providing the 70% by 2037 with this plan. I think we're short by about 2 or 3%. Nonetheless, so what this shows is a lot of utility scale solar. It also calls for utility scale wind. It calls for a conversion of natural gas. It calls for the development of rooftop solar. And if you look at what's happening there, it's kind of hard to go through in detail on the screen, but the few things that have happened from this plan, there's the battery project that was called for 20 megawatts in 2022. We're a couple of years behind for a number of reasons, but that project is coming online this year. There's the waste energy plant, which is included in here, and we're still in discussions with those folks to how that can come along. There's wind. There's not a whole lot of progress on wind. There's some significant challenges with permitting for wind brought about by the sort of build exclusion zone around the airport. Nothing over 150 feet within 10 miles of the airstrip, I think is the basics of the standard. And then there's also interference with the Doppler weather radar out in East End. So those are two hurdles that wind needs to cover. Utility scale solar, the plan called for, well, it recognized the existing 5 megawatts from Bodentown, and it called for an additional 25 megawatts in 2021, and another 25 megawatts in 22, another 25 megawatts in 23, and so on, all the way up to 140 megawatts by, what year is that, 2030. It also envisaged the conversion to natural gas, with the first gas coming online by 2025. At this point, it's probably not possible to do that, but we should be able to do it by 2027. And it calls for the growth of rooftop solar from where it was back then of 6 megawatts all the way up to 70 megawatts in 2045. Further analysis can be done on that, whether it's 70, 80, or 100 as the end. I don't think it matters when we're sitting where we are now. But the one point to note is rooftop solar is actually one of the few technologies that we've been able to progress to the target amount. So it shows a target of 2024 of 26 megawatts. And presently we have contracted 24 megawatts, and I'm pretty sure we'll reach the 26 by the end of the year. So I would say that despite some of the commentary, that's probably the only technology that's been moving according to plan. So yeah, and that's it. I mean, the output of this study from a cost standpoint was designed to bring costs down to the 10, 12 cents per kilowatt hour region for the fuel factor portion of our costs. Right now, fuel factor is in the range of 18, 19 cents. So I'm sure everybody's aware that that fuel factor is the largest portion of their costs, and that's where we are focusing all of our efforts to bring those costs down. And we're making decisions or making proposals for things to be done that would actually result in those cost savings. Along the lines of what's here now, this is a 7-8-year-old study. We've learned a whole lot more since then about renewable energies and how to deploy them. And I suspect when we renew this study over the course of the next year or so, which we're waiting for the output of the National Energy Policy to use as an input to our new study. And I suspect that we'll see a slightly different result, but I don't think the theme of it's going to change. It's still going to call for a whole lot of renewable energy, and it's going to call for probably natural gas to support that for those days that Richard mentioned earlier. The one thing to remember when talking about natural gas and the concerns we had, we modeled staying with diesel and not going to natural gas when we did this study. Right. And that was the highest cost portfolio of all of the 6 that were modeled. And the reason being is if we stay on diesel, there's a whole lot more solar that we need to get the CO2 down. But what does that mean? That means we're actually putting more solar in than the grid can handle, or that there's load for, which means we have to put even more storage, which is driving the cost up. So with natural gas and the environmental benefits that it brings, it means that we don't have to take those decisions that Richard was talking about earlier, where we're waiting for the technology for long duration storage to become cost effective. We don't need to be making those right away. We can do that as those technologies develop, and then remove the fuel in a cost effective way.
Right. So one of the things that I'm understanding, I think, and I'm hearing, and I just want to clarify this, is when you're transitioning, whether it's diesel to natural gas, solar, you're looking at all of these options. This isn't the telecom and specifically utility industry isn't something where you can just flip a switch and in 2 months you can have any of these things deployed. It takes time. I hear you talking about a study that's 7 years ago and you still, are working and trying to.
Well, it shouldn't have taken 7 years for some of these things, but many of these things are at least a 3-year initiative.
Wow. And that's if you're on target with everything else, which means the regulators are on target and all these other components kind of work in tandem with each other.
Yeah. I mean, you said something there that's really, really fundamental to this, right? And, we talk about rate of progress. And I can tell you my experience in trying to get these things done over the last 7 or 8 years is there's no shortage of good ideas, but everybody's fighting for their idea. And as a result, no ideas are being implemented. And we really do need to come together and work as a country and really, really focus on what's best for all residents, all electric consumers, not just subsets of them, not the ones that can do certain things. We have to make decisions that are good for every single customer. And if we can do that, I'm sure we can all get together and start executing on some of these things rather than fighting about how they're going to get done.
Yeah,
Right.
Sasha hits a key point there, because if we look at this integrated resource plan, for instance, we went out and we did public consultations. We spent a lot of time getting input from various stakeholders. We shared the preliminary results, then we shared the final results. We sent that to OFREG for their blessing. And from there, you would think there's alignment, some excitement around let's, get rid of the diesel and let's, get rid of the CO2 emissions and let's lower the cost of electricity. Most importantly, that's what everyone wants. But somehow we just have managed to bungle it over the last 7 years, and we haven't made the progress. As Sasha mentioned, I guess to their credit, the rooftop solar installers have lobbied hard and pressed hard and so on, and they have, we have delivered with CUC's facilitation. We have delivered the 24 megawatts of rooftop solar. If we were, I don't know how many installations that will be, probably approaching 2,000 installations. And, if we could have done 4 utility scale installations, we would have probably half of our energy on renewable energy right now. But it's disheartening, really, that we can't work together to move this country forward with lower price and cleaner energy.
All right. We do have a question that has come in from one of our listeners. This person says, good morning. Not just why do we need transition fuel, but why introduce a whole new extremely volatile fuel like LNG to Cayman? Why not use propane, which is already here, will support local businesses and doesn't need a whole new infrastructure plan for transport, storage, etc.?
Yeah, we've heard that, and there's a strong lobby from the propane industry because they think the natural gas is going to be a competitor to them. And I would say it's not in our interests. We certainly don't want to get into propane. The natural gas delivered to our customers, and if the government wants, they can ring fence that and say it's only for power generation. But I'll answer the question directly. Propane is not suitable. We've competed with propane for 2015. They had one of the competitors put a propane bid in, and the diesel beat it back then. If propane is going to be a major contributor to electricity generation, they're going to have to build power plants They're going to have to upscale their infrastructure significantly. I think propane energy is about 5 to 10% of the electricity market right now. So if they're going to scale up to supply significant amounts of electricity, they're, like I said, new power plants, new storage facilities, new terminal possible. And so their cost of infrastructure is going to be higher, and it's going to be a higher cost of electricity as well. And there's talk about natural gas being more volatile. That's not factual also, and not being safe. Natural gas is being used, in North America, the Western world, at a much higher rate than propane is. Most of your cities, certainly in the Northeast, anywhere that they need cooling, there's underground natural gas lines, and all of the homes are fed by natural gas. So it's a very safe product. But again, it's not. I would say to the proponents of propane that when there is the opportunity to bid for more generation, they can certainly do that. But I can't see right now that propane should be used to supply significant amount of electricity. The plan to move to natural gas also is in conjunction with it. Why it's simple for us is because our engines can burn the natural gas with modification, so we don't have to build new power plants. And when it comes to the transportation of the natural gas, obviously that would be included in the proposals from the vendors. And so we'll have to look at what infrastructure is required and whether it makes sense, whether it's feasible over the next 15 to 20 years. If it's very high cost that we can't recover those costs in the next 15 to 20 years, then the project doesn't become viable.
Okay. So your existing engines can be converted. How easy is that conversion process to accommodate natural gas?
We have an ongoing project right now, and one of the engines have been completed already. We are started on the second one. But that project is not only to ready it for natural gas, but also to bring it up to the latest technology on diesel, so that is much more fuel efficient and again, more reliable, because it's changing the components and extending the life of the unit. So for the fraction of a cost of installing a new power plant, we can extend the life of these units and make them more fuel efficient. And they're 90% of the way there for natural gas. So if natural gas does come, it just means the gas fittings and the gas supply equipment has to be added. And the other beauty with natural gas in these engines, we can switch on the fly. So if we're out of natural gas, we can go to 100% diesel. And so it gives us more flexibility. And in these days where potentially natural gas could be coming from the US, diesel from the US also, but as I said, the balance of the industry is from OPEC. If you have a problem with diesel, you can use the natural gas. We intend to bring the natural gas on a just-in-time basis, meaning that we won't store a lot of it on island. We may have, let's say, a week's supply at any time. And if we run out of natural gas, we can switch to diesel. The reason we're doing that is if it's in the form of liquefied natural gas, which is where you freeze the gas and turn it into a liquid so that it can be transported efficiently. When you store that on island, you need a heavily insulated storage, and that can become expensive. So you want to minimize the amount of storage that you need. So the model we're looking at is to not store a lot of it on island, but to use it as we receive it. And if we run out, then we would have a quick switch over to diesel, which is much lower cost to store.
So the person says that you can also convert your engines to accommodate propane?
Not our engines.
There are engines that can burn propane, but they're the ones that we have don't.
Okay.
There are conversion kits available.
Yes. All right. So this is why
we don't know of anyone using our size engines and type of engines running propane. I am sure it could be done. You would probably be looking at halving the output of the unit and having significantly lower fuel efficiency, because it's just it's the propane is just a different chemistry to a diesel and LNG.
Interesting. Okay, 936-2626. If you have a question this morning for CUC, they're here to answer your questions. So I did see a few other people were thinking along the same lines as that individual, but why not go to propane? And we've got, I think that's sufficiently answered. Damien says
there's one other little point to add onto that, right? When you look at sort of power solutions across the globe, you don't hear of many large-scale propane, if any, solutions. So, I mean, it is possible. Obviously, there's propane backup generators all across the island. But when you're looking at scale, you have to choose the best option. Even if it's a 5 or 10% difference, that 5 or 10% is millions of dollars a year. And so if it's not, we're not reinventing this, right? The whole globe is choosing natural gas over propane for power generation. And we did the studies, and the analysis came back saying, yeah, it's possible, but you're going to increase costs, and it's actually not going to be as environmentally friendly as a natural gas solution. So it's an easy decision when you have all the facts in front of you.
Right. And the point that you make that nobody else is using it for sort of, large scale utility service company, you wouldn't want to be the first because.
Well, I mean, there are some and there's small pockets of it, but it is not a broadly used technology. There are individual applications where it makes sense. I don't think Cayman falls into that group of options. And the fact that, like Richard said, back in when we last did an analysis on this, or the regulator did a competition, a diesel option was lower cost than the propane, and we're actually running from the diesel costs, so we don't want to choose something that's more costly than diesel. We want to choose something that's less costly.
Okay.
In the region, I'm aware, I think Rotan has, and they're a much smaller system, smaller engines, and they started out. They were in need desperately of generation, and the owner of the RECO is from North America and is in the business of trading propane, and so they went to propane. They've done a pretty good job with propane and solar on that island, but again, that is a much smaller system than ours. We also have in the U.S. Virgin Island. They were mandated by environmental laws, federal environmental laws, being a U.S. territory, to move away from diesel. And they surprisingly chose propane. We looked at it and said we weren't quite sure what was going on there, but they are trying to migrate to natural gas as well. The last that I heard on that, because it's very expensive, that project. Been very expensive for them. So we're aware of a couple. Those are the only two I know. Barbados, Antigua, Jamaica have gone to natural gas, importing natural gas.
Bahamas.
Barbados on a small scale. I'm not sure what they're running in, but on a small scale there. They've brought in natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
The Dominican Republic, natural gas and renewables. So it's all around us, and it's growing.
Very good. All right, 936-2626. If anybody has a question for the representatives this morning from Caribbean Utilities Company, please do give us a call. We have one person asking a question on WhatsApp. Let me just see. This question says, why can't CUC give the bus depot notice with the construction work that they're doing at the bus park that is disrespectful to the bus drivers? Okay, I don't know what. So you guys have construction work?
I think that's the underground work that we're doing downtown as part of the church
revitalization.
Yeah, so that is going down that street, and unfortunately we have to dig it up to get that done. I know that when our crews are doing that, they do their best to give everybody notice, but it is possible that maybe we can work more closely with the bus depot folks, and we'll take the feedback and see what we can do differently.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Now let's look a little bit at energy resource cost savings, right? So we've got battery energy storage systems versus LNG, and then large utility scale solar.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what this graph demonstrates.
So I mean, that's like I said earlier, you know, that one of the major things that we're trying to do is to bring down the cost of the fuel factor. I think it's been talked about in Grand Cayman for decades about that fuel factor and how it's such a large part of the bill. And you know, as we're saying here, you know, the issue, the real enemy in the cost of energy is diesel. We really do have to find ways of not using diesel. So what's shown in this graph here is our estimate of just 3 different projects that we're currently working on the cost savings per year. And these are savings not for CUC, these are savings for customers of the various different projects. So we have our battery energy project that we've done a little bit of PR on. There's one in Westby and one in Prospect going in. That's going to have a fuel efficiency benefit for our engines that's going to be equivalent to about $5 million in fuel. And that's a great thing. So that would be $5 million less fuel burned, which means $5 million less billed in the fuel factor. Similarly, our estimates on what the cost of LNG would be and the quantities that we would be importing would result in about a $15 million savings on fuel compared to what we expect diesel costs to be. So those 2 projects alone, $20 million. And then we talk about large utility scale solar projects. And our estimate with just 3 to 4 of those projects is in the range of $25 million a year of savings. Now, we don't know the exact numbers because those RFPs haven't been run and the final price hasn't been done and so on. But this is sort of the order of magnitude that we would expect based on all the information we have on the cost of solar and the forward-looking price of diesel. So last year, the island spent about $130 million on diesel for power energy. And here we have an opportunity with really just, this is, well, one project about to be completed. LNG's in the RFP stage. We really need to get moving on the large utility scale projects and do a number of them. But there's $45 million of savings just sitting there on the table. And each one of these has environmental benefits that go along with it. And so I talked a little bit earlier on about, you know, we really just need to stop fighting about how we're going to do this and start doing it, because there's money sitting on the table, and every year that we delay is another $45 million that consumers could have saved and had retained in their pockets. You know, I don't have any customers that tell me that the cost is too low, right? None, right? And so everything that we're doing is to work on big projects that are going to change the cost of the fuel factor, so that customers can keep some of their money and not waste it on a fuel that isn't the only option anymore.
Mm-hmm. All right. So a few more questions coming in. Let's jump on a few of these. I see a few people saying that their bill this month started to jump. Any reason why that might be?
It's hotter than last month. That's the only reason. And well, I mean, small piece, but March is also a longer month than February, but it's more so the temperature.
Right.
Yeah, there's another topic that we need to address, and I have been saying, to all the stakeholder presentations that we made, I've been saying in those presentations that we have two enemies: diesel and heat. And heat in the sense that here on the island, all of our buildings, our homes are air conditioned, pretty much all of them. You have a few people, as we learned in the presentation the other day, that don't use air conditioning, live on the beach or whatever, and they enjoy really low bills. But if you have an air conditioned building or home and it's not insulated properly and you don't have a proper air conditioner, the heat is going to be your big enemy, because the hotter it is outside, the more heat is going to be pouring into your home, and the more your AC has to work to pump it out. So last summer was the hottest summer ever. Well, it was the hottest year ever recorded in global and local history. And this summer, some are saying maybe, some of the experts, weather experts are saying it may be even hotter. And what we saw from last summer was the 2-degree difference in average temperature meant that on many days, I think homes, the air conditioners just could not keep up with pumping the heat out of the homes before it came back in. So they weren't cycling off, they're just running continuously. And of course, that is consuming electricity. So it was a difficult year last year. Fuel prices had fallen off from 2022 somewhat, which helped, but there was a lot higher consumption. This year, we're seeing that a run up again in fuel prices. If you've been watching the news, where OPEC is trying to get the price up, a barrel of crude up to around $100. It's now at $90, and so that's not good news for us, as well as the temperature. So this summer, again, I think will be a difficult one, which is why, as Sasha just said, every year that goes by that we don't have the solar farms in place to displace or replace, whichever way you want to look at it, the diesel fuel, we're going to have, we're going to be on the diesel roller coaster.
Wow. And you said that nobody's talking about our homes. And of course, one of the things that I know no one really wants to talk about is how energy efficient or not the homes are that we live in. And so we've seen people, Sasha, you can probably talk briefly about this, but we've seen people do these energy audits, and then all of a sudden they come out on the other end, having made a few changes, and they see their bill drop. So
energy efficiency investments are by far the best, if they're done right, by far the best return on investment that you can do to help with your energy bill. We see homes that are done that are really catered towards sort of first-time Caymanian buyers, where the developers are looking to cut costs as much as possible, and they skimp on the quality of the windows, they skimp on the amount of insulation, and the home looks beautiful and very appealing, has granite countertops and all these other nice things that are very nice to have in your home. But they haven't made investments in high efficiency air conditioning. They haven't made investments in good insulation in the roofs and the walls and so on. And as a result, you have this first-time Caymanian home buyer who gets into a home that they can afford, but they can't afford the electricity bill to keep it comfortable. And it's because the developer hasn't made decisions that are good for the life cycle of those buildings. For a long time, we've been pushing for legislation and codes to be implemented so that, developers can't do that. They can't build a building without proper insulation. And you hear the feedback that the cost of that is too high. But the reality is, if it costs I don't know what the number is, but if it costs $10,000 more to put that into a home, the impact on the increase in the mortgage payment will be far less than the savings you would have on the electricity bill. We did a retrofit on one customer's house. That's sort of a project, and I know that the government through the Ministry of Sustainability is doing similar things after the learnings that came out of that, where we looked at this house and we said, okay, they want a competition to win this retrofit, and we installed better appliances, but the real low-hanging fruit was the better AC and the better insulation. We did the foam insulation in the person's attic, and their bill came down by 50%, right? It 50%, right? That's a few $100s for most people, right? For me at my home, I mean, I got my bill yesterday, $450, right? No, thank you, right? It's too high. But 50% of that, and that is a fairly typical residential bill. It's $200, right? For $200 on a mortgage payment, you can buy a lot of energy efficiency.
Wow. Did you have a caller to the program? Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller. Uh-oh. I guess they weren't calling after all. Don't forget, folks, if you call during the show, you're live, like live. All right. So, yeah, I mean, that's really shocking when you think about the implications of that. And don't even get me started on construction. We'll talk about that another day. But anyway, let's read a few other comments here. Alberto says, good morning, Sandy. Please ask if CUC would consider investing in solar by placing the panels on homes free instead of paying for the land. It may be cheaper to deploy and preserve the environment. So let's talk about this, because this goes to the core, again, of our discussion this morning. Rooftop solar versus large scale, solar farms. This person is still of the mindset that placing it in the homes would benefit people. We haven't even talked about the fact that some homes can't take solar panels because of the construction and other roofing issues. And so that brings in a whole other element. But do we have any idea, has anyone done a study on what percentage of homes in Cayman as they are now would be able to take rooftop solar panels? I know even for us, I mean, everybody I think knows I have rooftop solar. We were in a brand new house and our roof wasn't ready for it. We had to do reinforcement and spend money to make sure that the first little storm that comes across doesn't blow off the entire roof with the panels on it, because it couldn't handle the load. So not everyone can afford to go and hire someone to put in additional hurricane straps and all these other things. I think that, it is surprising to me, and I think there has to be an educational process involved, and what someone has to do to even get rooftop solar. It's not quite as easy as you think. Alberto, even the planning process, it literally took us like 6 months, I think, to kind of go through the process. So it's not like a immediate solution either. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do solar and by next week I have it on. There's a whole building control unit process. Planning has to get involved. They have to approve stuff. CUC has to, look at stuff in terms of metering and so forth. I mean, there's standards that have to be met for the installation. And one of those is the placement of the panels. If your roof is big enough, how many panels, the actual physical weight of those panels, they're not necessarily light. There's a lot that goes into it, believe me.
And it's a bigger question than the one that's being asked. I'll sort of come around to it from the side. So, we have a target of getting to either 70% renewable energy, or there's a proposal for considering 100% renewable energy. I've seen some estimates on what could be accommodated on rooftops in Grand Cayman, rooftops in parking lots and so on. And I think we agree with CREA has made some statements that it's about 100 megawatts or so. And I think we agree that that might be an order of magnitude correct in terms of what you can put on a roof, on the roofs that are available in the parking lots that are available. But that's only going to get us to about 25% renewable energy. So you then have to think of, okay, well, what about the rest that we want to get? We want to get to 70% according to our current national energy policy. The new draft is talking about 100%. So yes, we can do the first 25 on rooftops, and then you have to think, okay, is that the best decision today, right? So you then look at, if you as a household person are going to go out and decide, hey, I'm going to buy something, one of the first things that you choose is based on is the price, right? And in this case, CUC looks at the energy price. And Richard highlighted earlier on the difference in cost on an energy basis of rooftop solar versus utility scale solar. The benefit with the rooftop is, yes, you don't have to develop the land, but the fact that the roof is there does not create enough of a savings to pay for that. And so if we're going after accelerating renewable energy, I think what we really need to do is start looking at how we can do rooftop more cost effectively, number one. And there are some places, I mean, some buildings, it's a lot easier to install than others. Like, for example, you talked about having to modify your home to do that. I'm sure that wasn't cheap for you to do that. Some roofs, it's just going to be a big job, right? And maybe that's not the best option for that building, right? In other places, particularly like somebody who has a parking lot and they want shade, well, the structure is coming there, and you can get the shade, and you maybe that can be financially viable. But what you're doing is you're getting energy and shade, right? You're getting two things out of it. So there are ways that rooftop can be done cost effectively. But the real low-hanging fruit in terms of low-cost energy is in the utility scale. So the approach really does need to be joint. Yes, the utility scale has the negative of having to use land, and so we do want to maximize the roofs that can be used, but we want to make decisions on that in a way that we're not buying expensive energy and then passing that cost on to customers in the same way that we have to do now with expensive diesel, right? So my challenge to the rooftop industry folks who we really want to work closely with is, let's find solutions where the costs aren't as high as they are now and find ways of doing that better.
So I guess to answer the question pointedly, I think even with
thanks, Richard.
free access to roofs, it's still going to be a higher cost than utility scale solar.
Yeah.
If you look at, so you would be installing solar on 10,000 rooftops to get the equivalent of one solar farm.
Wow. That's shocking. All right. Rough Seas says those solar panels have a 30-year lifespan, and they lose about 4% of their efficiency every year, no matter how bright the sun is. They always need to be replaced. So is it really worth it, especially if you have a high chance of being ripped off or broken by hurricanes every year?
Yeah, the financial viability takes into account that degradation in output. If 4% or whatever number you use, 2%, 3%. And yes, hurricanes are a concern, which is another reason that I certainly believe that we need to keep the diesel engines or something like that within a building which is built to withstand the hurricanes. So that if you lose all of the solar panels, you're still able to start those engines up. Now, in the future model, they won't be running a whole lot, but they will be. It's interesting. They'll become like almost standby generators. So you don't have the cost of fuel going through them because they're sitting there waiting for that time when either we've had a week of rain or we've had a hurricane that's blown away a lot of the solar panels, that we can start these engines up running on cleaner fuels, and be able to produce reliable electricity supply.
I will add to that.
So everything comes with a risk, is what I'm hearing you say, basically.
Everything, but the hurricane risk, it is a real risk, but it's also manageable. So these are mostly glass panels, which it doesn't take somebody to be very intelligent to know that that's a risk in a hurricane. However, there's a lot of design parameters and learnings from other places where that risk can be mitigated in a meaningful way. And if I can just sort of draw a similar view is, when you have a hurricane, you have windows on your home, which are also glass. And yes, you can get hurricane rated glass, but I think we all know that hurricane rated glass, if it gets an impact, is still going to crack. But yet, for those people that lived through Hurricane Ivan, they know that not all of their windows broke, right? And in many cases, none of their windows broke. And so it's not that it's impossible to have infrastructure that's out there that utilizes glass. It is a risk, but all that to say is it's manageable. And I think with proper application of good quality engineering, that it can still be a meaningfully good infrastructure for the country.
The hurricanes of 2017 and 18, I think it was, in the Eastern Caribbean, there was a lot of learnings from those two major hurricanes that went through. I think they were like 2 weeks apart. 2017, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so we've seen the report from that, the sort of reporting on solar failures and what the mode of failure was. So some good learnings that came out of that, that everyone in the region, in the industry, is using to improve their systems, the resiliency of their systems going forward.
Rough Seas says, how you spend how much, ? But how much did you make? Now, this was something that you guys addressed during your presentation as well. And I think that this is something that you should just tell the general public. It's worth knowing. CUC obviously makes money. You've got shareholders that you have to be accountable to. But let's talk about how much of what you make you actually reinvest. I think you actually had a graph. We don't have it available here, but I thought it was very useful to put things in perspective from the opinion that a lot of people think, when you say you make money, they think you're just pocketing all of these profits. So let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I guess on a cash flow basis, we show that presentation where of every dollar, I think last year, of every dollar we collected, it was 8 cents that went to shareholders. About 40 cents went to fuel, and
25 cents to
about 8 cents to labor and materials and insurance, and then the next big one was capital expenditures, which was, I don't know, somewhere in the region of 35 cents. So our industry is very capital intensive. Last year we invested $95 million. I think our profits last year were in the region of $35 million. This is US dollars. So when you look at that, if we don't have access to capital, and we raise capital in two ways: equity from shareholders and debt from bondholders or banks. And as you know, with your home, for instance, if you go to get a mortgage, they're not going to give you 100% mortgage. You have to put something up. In our industry, they expect that we have roughly no higher than 60% debt. Our target is 55%. So you can't just keep borrowing to invest. You have to have shareholders that put equity in as well. And so it's very important that those shareholders get a return. The return on investment at CUC, I mean, I don't see any of the big businesses, the big family businesses, taking their profits and putting it into CUC locally. We are stable, but we're certainly it's not an unreasonable return. So right now we are in the range, and we have been for the last 10 years, around 6.5% to 7% return on assets. And that's comparable to what the old license was, which was in the 15% range. So we have, it's a what we call in the industry cost of capital. I repeat, we're very capital intensive. If we cannot replace the poles, the engines, or not even replace, I mean, replacement in itself takes a lot of capital, because a pole we planted 20 years ago was $100. Today it's $1,000. We have probably over 20,000 poles out there. So just replacing those poles is a lot of capital expenditure. And then we have the new developing for new customers coming online. So we have to invest ahead of time to ensure that we have the capacity to meet current customer demand as well as future customer demand, because you can't wait until the hotel down the road comes to you or the housing division comes to you and say, we need electricity in 2 months, and we have to embark on a 3-year project to upgrade the facilities in the area to serve them. We have to be ahead of the game, and that is why it's important for us to attract capital to invest. And we are also investing earnings, so we're putting our profits back into the system as well.
All right, we do have a caller in the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Well, good morning.
Morning, Danny.
Talking about capital, how much would it cost for CUC to replace its the poles for its transmission lines? And would you happen to know what percentage of those poles and infrastructure you were able to acquire insurance for?
Okay, on the insurance bit, we don't have insurance for any of our poles and wires or transmission and distribution lines which are outside of a 1,000-foot radius of our power plant or any of our external substations. So within 1,000 feet, it's covered. 1,000 feet is not a whole lot. So pretty much all of our overhead and underground transmission and distribution system is not covered by insurance. On the second question, how much would it cost? Undergrounding 6 to 10 times the cost of overhead lines. Having said that, we're working with the regulator that over an extended period of time, we're trying to put our critical lines underground, particularly on the western peninsula, the Georgetown 7 Mile Beach area. We're currently, you would see a lot of work going on the new roundabout, Bobby Thompson Way, Linford Pearson Highway. We're putting everything there underground while they're doing the new roads. So that will ensure, because our focus now that we have a very reliable system in most of the times in good weather, last year we were only 1.7 hours of outage for the year for a typical customer. And what we're pivoting to now is resiliency, which is how do we perform during and following a major hurricane. So we're starting to focus more on that. It's been a focus over the years. Obviously, we have indoor substations they were designed for 200-mile-an-hour winds. But we're trying to put more emphasis now on that resiliency, given the fact that hurricanes are becoming more intensive and frequent in our region.
Maybe I didn't express myself clearly. When I was asking about the cost of for the poles, I meant to indicate that, let's say you have a major hurricane and you lose a lot of your poles, the fact that you don't have insurance, what would that mean for customers should you lose a significant portion of your light poles cost-wise? Like, because I remember there was this amount that was added to the bill after Hurricane Ivan, I think it was. Do you have has that number gone up? Should we experience a similar damage?
Yeah, speaking of that hurricane thing that everyone talks about, the hurricane surcharge, I'm quite familiar with that. Our old license didn't have a specific way of dealing with disaster events, and under the old license, we would have taken a big loss in the year of the Hurricane Ivan 2004. And that loss would have propelled the rates up to a high level, and they would probably have stayed there for some time. So it was agreed with the government of the day that the best way, the most transparent way of looking at it was to keep our rates at the same level, but to have a surcharge which covered some of the costs of the hurricane, not all of the costs. And if your memory serves you right, for those days, Denny, we actually, in getting the new license, we negotiated with the government, and we did not recover those costs. So we had started recovering them in 2004, and in 2008, as part of the new license, we gave the concession to stop recovering those costs. However, the more important thing is, in the new license, there's specific treatment for hurricanes. As you said, we can't get as I said, we can't get traditional insurance for transmission and distribution equipment. And so if we do have a hurricane, we have to have some way of the company being able to survive that financially, but being fair to consumers. And in the current license, it does not, we don't anticipate that there would be a significant hurricane surcharge. It may be a very small one for some of the costs that we can't cover, but we don't anticipate that it would be a significant increase in terms of a hurricane surcharge.
And on one question regarding the solar arms, I've always been very reluctant to think about the idea of bulldozing a bunch of trees to put up solar panels so that we could save the environment. And if I'm understanding what you said earlier about the number of homes that covered by a farm, I wasn't sure exactly how big the farm was, how much land was required. But you made mention of like 10,000 homes or something, 9 or 10,000 homes or something like that. What kind of acreage is required for solar for, say, 10,000 homes?
So, Sasha, you want to go, say 90 megawatts divided by...
it's probably about 150 to 200.
So so in the future, when Cayman has a population of 200,000,
hopefully not.
I mean, unless they're planning on stopping having children. Every country grows, right? It's just a matter of how quickly you grow. And so the question would be, if solar panels are, quote, sustainable, you would need about 150 acres for every 10,000 homes if we had a 250,000 population.
Yeah, Denny, you raise an interesting point though, because I think what we're looking at to get to 70% is in the area of 900 acres, 900 to 1,000 acres. We know the Department of Environment has looked at this in the past, and they've come up with a number of about 1,200 or more acres that they think is suitable for utility scale solar. We are not proposing at all that we are, going into mangroves to develop solar. We wouldn't do that. But the point you make is very, very good, because if you cover all the roofs and we do the 1,000 acres and then we keep growing, we do know that, for instance, we're going to have to grow up. Buildings won't have enough rooftop to supply themselves. And what do we do? So what is a form of energy? So, it's not an issue that we have to consider today, but when we start getting to the 100% renewables, we're going to have some solution which gives us enough energy density to be able to run the grid and supply everyone if there is not enough rooftop space and not enough land to give us that energy density.
The other piece to consider, Danny, on that is as we grow, and hopefully we solve this by then, the Grand Cayman average residential user uses 3 times as much energy than the Caribbean average. And that's mostly because of air conditioning and our use of it here. But other Caribbean nations don't near as much. And when you couple on top the cost of the energy, and as well, growing that population, there's certainly an opportunity to tackle with energy efficiency that number. And you could see a situation where if we're successful with that, where you could perhaps, I don't know if you could double the population but keep the energy the same, but it is definitely within the realm of possibility that if we make the right decisions on building codes, that we can see that the energy impact of those additional customers is much less. I talked about earlier about the lower income housing that's being developed now. There's a lot of houses that are being developed that are not like that, that are even larger but have lower bills than some of these houses. It's not because they've deployed solar, it's because they've built their house correctly and made the investments in energy efficiency. So, a part, as we think of that population growth, we have to attack it not just from how we're going to get the energy, but how we're going to not use it as much as well.
Right. The installation. But talking about whether we should be considering, what do we do when we have a population of 200,000 or more? I believe we should be thinking about that now. And I think a very clean form of energy is nuclear. And I am familiar with what the laws say about it, but laws are man-made. And
all right.
So if in the longer term, we're not just going to be able to continue to just add solar farms, we're going to have to come up with a different solution.
I agree with you, Danny. I agree with you that's nuclear, although we are not talking about that now and looking at it, but certainly we should not close our eyes to it in the future. It is globally becoming one, for a long time it was out of favor, but it's certainly coming back in favor now, and they have the smaller plants with lower grade fuel, which are much safer. I mean, if we look at all the nuclear submarines deployed around the world today, they're using these small solar plants instead of
they sleep right next to it.
Cruise ships are using diesel engines. Some are moving to LNG, but the nuclear subs are using nuclear batteries.
Thanks, Denny.
Thank you for your time. Bye.
Okay, have a good one. All right, folks, we got to start wrapping things up here. So maybe just one or two questions we can really squeeze in. I think this one is important in terms of factual information. So Rough Seas says he's making a comment about when you put your, so CUC turns around and says, people, we need to increase your rates by 15% until we pay off our debts. So let's talk about this 15% return, because actually that isn't correct.
No, it's definitely not correct. The old license prior to 2008 had a target of 15%, but in my time at CUC, we never got to 15%. It was around 13 to 14%, but that's a big number still. Mm-hmm. Since our 2008 license, we've been down around 6.5–7% return on investment.
So your license expired. You signed a new contract 16 years ago.
Yeah,
it hasn't been 15%, and people are still stuck in their heads. This is one of the things that I find so fascinating about misinformation, folks. I mean, people always say 15%, and for the past 16 years, it hasn't been 15%. And yet people are still saying that. We see people posting on social media that that's still the case. So, you know, we want to try to get to factual information as much as possible. And that's why we certainly invite people like CUC to come on the program. Now, something that has been very topical, and I think it's worth asking the question, I saw it from Carrie. Carrie says, if CUC has no problem in discussing all of these things and are so open to the public, why are they fighting so hard to not release the reports the ombudsman has asked them to release and now looking for judicial review? So let's clarify exactly what it is that the ombudsman say you should release. Is it redacted information? Is it not redacted? Like, what are your options? And why, as Carrie says, does CUC have an issue here?
Yeah, well, CUC, I think, of all the companies locally, you can go online, our website, and see everything about us. You know, our earnings. We're very transparent. However, and I'm not going to get too far into this. Obviously, it's you know, their legal proceedings. But we do give OfReg a lot of information. In fact, under the law, OfReg can request from us any information. And some of this information, considering that we are in a competitive environment when it comes to generation. So we talked earlier about us bidding into the solar competitively. We had in 2014, the last generation bid. We competed against other companies locally as well as overseas. So there's some information that we believe that competitors should not get. And so we think are commercially sensitive to CUC. But we give it to OfReg, and OfReg on behalf of the public looks at this information and makes their decisions. But we wouldn't want it to get out to the public, to other competitors. And that's really what it's about. We have, from time to time, we have differences in opinions with OfReg and various parties, and sometimes it requires, you know, us to go to the court for clarity, and hopefully, you know, some good will come from it. But I would say to the caller that I would venture to say that we're more transparent than any other organization on the island. Unnecessarily so. We're providing a public function. The electricity we provide to the public, so you know we should have information for the public.
All right. So you just don't want your competitors to get a hold of certain information, essentially. What I'm hearing, OfReg can have it and use it for, I guess, making determinations and different things. But it's a question of putting everything out in the public domain. I think anybody as a business could probably understand how some elements of your business needs to be private.
Yeah. So we have no access whatsoever to any other business on island, any of their numbers. They're pretty much all private businesses, and we know nothing about them. You like I said, I welcome you to go on our website. If you have the time, you can get a lot of information, even the information that's usually for shareholders only. We have on our website.
And I've had a look, and I can certainly share this link with everyone right there for the taking. You can go and click on this link here, CUC's website, Investor Relations Quarterly Reports, and they've got everything dating back from many, many years, all of their fiscal quarterly reports. And I can also tell you, as a member of the media, they go the extra step and email these out as well. So we don't even have to go looking for it. They will send this information to us. And of course, you simply click on, whatever you want to download, and then you're off and running. And you're able to access those documents. And they're quite detailed. I don't know if anyone's ever bothered to look at them, but I can tell you that they are very detailed reports. All right, I think we'll have to end the program there. Thank you guys so much for, maybe we should, James is here. I think he must have been late to class, but he's got one question that maybe we'll squeeze in. He says, what does a cost of service study from a decade ago plus a grid study that shows how much solar can be added to the grid have to do with the cost of building future solar farms? Absolutely nothing. That's a smokescreen for the real reason they don't want the public disclosure of those documents. So I'm not sure if you can say anything more specific to that.
Well, maybe James can tell us why we don't want to disclose it, but all I would say is this is being done on principle. He's correct. The cost of service study was a decade ago, but if we set a precedence of giving, and the sensitive information that's in that is from a decade ago, but if you set a precedence where every time we send something to OFREG, it can go to our competitors, then you've set the precedence. So
right.
I'm not sure what James is trying to get at. It's potentially he is the person who is requesting the information. I don't know, but I'm not sure why.
Can we get the cost structure for James's business?
All right, folks. Thank you so much. On that note, we'd like to thank representatives from Caribbean Utilities Company for coming on the program. This has been very, very educational. Sorry that we couldn't get to all of your questions, but I also want to stress, I've said this before, CUC, if you've been paying attention, you've seen an obvious shift in their communication strategy. They're being extremely transparent. They're committed to coming on the program. We're trying to get them on at least once or twice a month, so that they can answer your questions, talk about projects that they have coming up, what's going on, and answer your questions, as frankly and directly as possible. So Stephanie says, who are your competitors? So maybe that's a question that's worth answering if most people don't know.
Well, the last competitive bid we had DECO for generation. We had DECO, and we had a company from, their name escapes me right now,
And DECO, just to be clear, is the DART consortium.
Yes.
That's also won the bid for the
waste energy.
The waste energy, basically taking care of the dump. So that's the DECO group. So they're potentially in the business of generation and the whole works. That's interesting.
Well, when you ask who our competitors are, I'm just calling out who we have competed against in the past, in the 2015 or 2014 bid, and we also have potential competitors out there who would submit proposals for the solar bid.
Yeah, there's 7 or 8 companies listed as qualified bidders for that OFREG procurement.
So just going back in the 2008 license, the government wanted competition, and so we have competition in generation. We have 2 licenses. We have a generation license and we have a transmission distribution license. It made no sense. It makes no sense. Nowhere in the world do you see two sets of poles and wires and competition in T&D, so in transmission and distribution. So we have been in a competitive environment since 2008, and you can't have your cake and eat it too. You're either in a competitive environment or not. So if we want to say we have no competitors, then we can give all this information out. But if you want us to be in a competitive market where we're bidding on projects like everyone else, then we can't give this information out. Or it wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in the public's eyes. I always say, why would the public want us who are competing to give our information out there? So let's say that someone could potentially beat us on a bid, but they see our costs and they go, oh, we don't have to bid that low. We could bid higher. That's not in the public interest. You're going to get a higher price than you otherwise would have gotten if this great super competitor hadn't seen our costs.
And just one final thing, can you again clarify the types? You've got two different very distinct and types of licenses. I think this is important, just sort of base knowledge for people to understand. So you've got one in relation to distribution.
Yes. Transmission and distribution.
Transmission and distribution.
Yeah.
And then the other license
is a generation license, and that covers our generators that we generate on the grid. But it also, we have the Bordentown Solar, who has a generation license, and anyone else who may come on and win a bid and become an independent power producer producing on the grid. And we anticipate that there will be more in the future. But we just want it to be fair. If you win the bid and you bring the lowest cost and you can put energy on the grid, lower cost energy with the same reliability and environmental performance that any other party would have done, and you have the lower cost, we can spread those costs to all consumers for their benefit.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Again, Mr. Richard Hugh and Sasha Tibbetts from CUC, we appreciate you both coming onto the program and answering as many questions. I know the original time commitment was a little bit less, but we've gone into overtime. So we appreciate you guys always being willing to be a little bit flexible with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
anytime. Thank you, Sandra. Anytime that I am asked to speak about this topic, it is so important. We are going through a period. Look, I've been in this industry now here for 37 years, I think it is. And people always say to me in conversation, you have a reliable service, but when are you going to bring the cost down? We have a once in a generational opportunity to switch to cleaner energy with lower costs. And that is what CUC is focused on, right? We need consumers to focus on their energy efficiency to also help themselves with their costs. And what gets me about the misinformation is when people think that it's always CUC's fault, it detracts them from doing what they have to do and making good decisions about keeping their house well insulated to keep the heat out, and looking at everything that's consuming energy and reducing their energy consumption, particularly their air conditioner. It's not a coincidence that every summer your bills go high. It's the consumption. Our rates don't change through summer.
Right. I mean, everybody who looks at their bill can see that as well, Yeah,
the graph that we put shows that consumption increase. Yeah.
So at any time that I am needed to speak or debate on this topic, I am, as you mentioned, and you were here a couple of days ago, we have just been going through all the stakeholders to try and give the detailed information, facts, not propaganda, but facts about our industry and where we think we need to go. And I'm open to criticism. If we can learn something, if we can change our direction for the better of the consumers overall, not just one segment, but all consumers. And I have a particular bent for Caymanian first-time homeowners.
Mhm.
That is where we need to get. These are the future. We already know how difficult it is to get a home for a Caymanian. I have Caymanian kids. I know how difficult it is, and a lot would say I'm in a privileged position, but it is difficult. And for them to build homes that are heat traps or ovens, and then move in, get their high electricity bills, and then blame CUC, and it's just a vicious circle. And we can't seem to break out of it. I've been in this from the 90s. We've been preaching energy conservation, energy efficiency, and we still don't have a building code that protects the Caymanian homeowner. The wealthy have the information, the architects and so on that they employ are advising them, spend the extra money, build with ICF, put in high efficiency air conditioning, and we have 5,000 square foot homes with $350 bills. And I'm seeing Caymanian homes, $1,500, $1,750 with $800, $900 bills. It doesn't make sense.
Yep. I mean, Damien's getting it. He says, imagine the future. Low income housing and low bids. Planning laws need to be updated. Sasha?
There are some positive things. I think the National Housing Trust, the homes they're doing, as far as I know, are like fully insulated, and they're looking at energy efficiency. It would be interesting. I don't have that information. I will look into it to see whether any of these are online and how they are performing. And there are also some great things, I think, happening now in the Ministry of Sustainability, where they are certainly looking at the standards, the building code. And I know that there's an event that I've been invited to, which is sort of a seminar on how do you move countries from no energy efficiency codes to implementing them through legislation, etc. So the wheels seem to be turning there, but I think the last thing I do in my career, I want to see that through, that we do take energy efficiency and focus, get a nation that focuses on how much electricity they're using, rather than shouting at the boogeyman CUC. Because I can tell you, we are doing everything on our side to provide a reliable service at least cost, but we do need the consumers also to do their part.
Sasha, any final thoughts?
Boss just said it all there. No, thanks again for having us. It is super important for customers to have the opportunity to speak to us or hear what we have to say, being open about what our strategy is, open on what we're focused on, and look forward to the next time I'm back on here with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Again, Sasha Tibbetts and Richard Hu from Caribbean Utilities Companies. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right, folks, we'll take a quick commercial break, but I think there's a lot there that has left me ruminating and thinking, everything from construction. I mean, it's shocking and amazing how we don't think about these things. Sometimes it's like an afterthought. But yeah, we need to have consideration for exactly, from the second you think, oh, I want to build a house, to Damien's point, I have a concern because, my goodness, lately I've been dabbling a little bit in some property investments, and I've seen things that have just blown my mind with the construction industry. It is, man, it seems like such a wild, wild west of not being properly regulated by anybody. I know planning claims that they are, passing certain types of inspections, but I got to shake my head when I see the reality of what people are able to build, get passed by planning, and then it becomes your problem as the homeowner. Damien says cutting corners and lack of inspections. Well, I can tell you what, there is a lot of cutting corners, and I constantly have this debate with my husband because he says, well, if you build, then you can oversee everything and you can make sure they're doing it right. I'm like, do I look like I'm a plumber? Do I look like I'm a carpenter? I don't have those skills. We rely on building codes and the planning department and BCU to make sure that those things are done to code. And I can tell you without fear of any contradiction that it is simply not happening. I don't know how stuff is getting passed, but I've had two things recently in relation to some properties. One was a pipe that burst in a wall. Thankfully, it wasn't the interior wall. It was actually in the marmorand. And guess what? The elbow where was a curve, the elbow where they meet wasn't long enough. And yes, it took years for that to manifest itself and for it to burst. And then all of a sudden you have an interior concrete wall that's like sweating one day and the paint is peeling off. And you're like, huh? What's this? Oh my God, there's a leak. Now we got to find this leak. Thankfully, the contractor, we were able to speak with him and quickly find the leak. But it's like, how do you do that? How do you get, this is plumbing 101, I would think. Again, I'm not a plumber, but is it not plumbing 101 that says, I don't even know. Like you have to have a certain amount of connectivity in the elbow, especially. Who makes the elbow too short? This is the foolishness that homeowners, folks, are having to put up with that really just blows my mind. I mean, I'm just thinking, who passes this stuff? I'm guessing, to be quite frank and honest, that nobody in planning is, I don't know how you check that after a pipe goes in. How do you make sure that they've actually put the elbow until it breaks, you got a water leak, and then you chip it out and you chip out the marmorand, you pull it apart. Then you're like, well, how the heck did this happen? Another issue right now with an air conditioning situation. Again, putting, plumbing hot water pipes right next to the cool pipes for the air conditioning, creating condensation, which over time creates leak, and not putting proper enforcement where things join up. I'm telling you, I have a lot of questions for planning. How does this stuff get passed? I'm like, what? How did this happen? It doesn't, it's a wild, wild west. We talked about just a few months ago, a building there in Frank Sound that is literally crumbling because the contractor was permitted to not put sufficient steel in the building. This unit, 4 units, have now been condemned. Planning is like, this is unsafe for in habitation. Nobody can live in these buildings. And this is a single building, but nobody can live in these apartments. Now you have a single mother who is paying a mortgage. She went to the bank and got a mortgage. She's got kids, right? She's having to pay a mortgage on a crappy building that is deteriorating and now fully condemned by planning, and turn around and go out there and find an apartment. How many of us can afford to pay for an apartment and a mortgage at the same time? That's why you get a mortgage, so that you don't have to pay somebody else these ridiculous fees. You can imagine paying a mortgage and an apartment? A single mother of 2 children? A single Caymanian mother? Come on now. How, and to this day, no one can properly explain how that happened with that building. Who passed it? Is it planning's fault? I understand that the person who was supposed to be doing that part of the inspection has been on leave, suspiciously enough, all of this time. Is it his fault? Then why does he still have a job? How is planning going to compensate people for maybe one of your inspectors not doing their jobs? These are the types of questions that I have. It's just absolutely ridiculous. How does this stuff get past planning? They're supposed to be the gatekeepers. And so I find it interesting. And I think a lot of us, even when we know certain things as homeowners, people who are building homes, we're making really, really poor decisions when it comes to fitting out a house. I mean, I've never built a house. I've always said, this is an ongoing debate between my husband and I don't want to build a house. I don't have that kind of energy and time to get that frustrated. God knows I might kill a contractor or 2 in the process. Because I've heard too many horror stories. And he says, well, that's when you get the big boys like, I don't know, what are some of these people? Like the McAlpines or whatever to believe. I'm like, you got that kind of money? You better share some of your money with me, hubby, because I don't see that kind of money around here. What are the other ones? Phoenix, like you get them to build your house, but they're all using subcontractors. You're only as good as the worst subcontractor you have. I know a guy right now in our neighborhood. He's building an apartment complex, right, of his own. I think he's doing it out of pocket because he seems to really be taking his time. And so, he's taking his time. And I spoke to him one day, said, hey, how's the project coming? Moving slowly, but he said, you know what? I have to, and he's in the electrical business. He has his own electric company. He says, I have to go behind every single one of these guys and ensure that they're doing things right. Even though planning is going to approve it, he has to go and check. And because he's connected to the industry, he's on the electrical side. I guess he's worked with a lot of them. He said, Sandy, you have no clue how frustrating it is dealing with these guys and how poor of a job they actually do. I'm like, really? He said, listen, I'm in the industry. I'm telling you. And he said, it don't matter. You want to put down Cayman contractors and this and that. He said, Sandy, we bring people in from overseas who claim that they have all these so-called qualifications and certificates and this and that. He said, when you put them out on the job and you see the caliber of work that they do, he said, honey child, you better off keeping the Caymanians that you have and training them up despite the fact that they don't have the certifications. Because at least they have the real world on the job training. These other guys don't have it. And they come in here and do all kind of bamboozling stuff. And I'm like, wow. Mm-hmm. And he's in the business. That's what he does for a living. And for his own project, he's like, I have to go and double check every single thing these workers do. I must go build something for what? I look like I'm a contractor. Like I have that time and I wouldn't even know what I'm looking at. This is a problem. Listen to me. I got a girlfriend right now. This is the saddest story that I've heard. Hundreds of thousands of dollars later, over $300,000, you got to see what this contractor has given her as a structure. Not even windows in yet. Windows were supposed to come from last year, summer. And they're just getting to the shipper in February because now she's fired him and getting legal counsel to sue his behind. Listen, I'm sorry, but I would murder somebody. You think I have, and people are like, well, maybe the solution is the banks don't give the contractors the money. They give it to you. And I'm thinking, I don't see how that's not gonna make any sense because they're asking you to become what, the project manager? You hire a contractor, even if he's subcontracting work out, because ultimately he will be responsible for whatever happens on the project. That's what the bank wants. The bank wants a chain of liability. They can't come and sue you if the plumbing is done incorrectly. Yes, you're going to have to be paying the mortgage, but at the same time, they don't want to have to turn around and put you in the hot seat of, well, somebody messed up your plumbing, so now we're going to be, who are you going to sue, yourself? I can't imagine taking on that risk. And I think some people sort of think, well, maybe that's the better way to do it. It doesn't make any sense. Damien says babysitter / site manager. And again, if you don't have that kind of skill set, you're asking for a world of trouble. Keisha says, as I said before, it's the contractors because he know what they do out there. Damien says he's waiting on the next Cat 5 or 4 hurricane. And you know what else is crazy? I was listening the other day to a conversation about a young lady, again, complaining about her CUC bill. You know, she has one of these budget economy homes, and they said to her, you've got a concrete structure. You know, concrete isn't the best conduit unless you properly put in insulation. So where's the insulation in your house? You don't have any insulation in your walls, yada, yada. And she's like, well, you know, the contractor told me it was going to be this amount to do that. And I was like, no, I don't have the money for that. Instead, I decided to purchase granite countertops. This is a kind of thing. And again, this is an education and a re-education of the general public. Granite countertops does not make your home energy efficient. To be clear. So now she's crying down on CUC because she decided not to properly insulate her home and to go with concrete walls and this and that, no proper insulation in the walls. So now the problem, as they said, the big bad boogeyman is CUC because you're paying to cool concrete. You ever tried doing that before? Right? But at some point she had a choice and she made a really poor decision about what to invest in her home. She thought, oh, the granite countertops look good. And if I ever need to sell this home, I can list granite countertops. What about listing that your home is energy efficient and properly insulated? So the next single mother that wants to buy your house, maybe you're in a position to finally upgrade, can consider, wow, that's an immediate return on my investment. Right away, I'm going to save money on my CUC bill. How is the granite countertops going to benefit you? Because that was a trade-off. The trade-off was putting proper insulation in the house or getting the granite countertop. She went with the granite countertop because, oh, that'll look good on resale. How about that CUC bill looking good because your house is properly insulated? I'm just saying. It really boggles my mind, the things that people don't think about, you know. Even when we purchased our home, whatever number of years ago, it was a brand new build. It was new to us. It was brand new build. But right away, I could see some things I thought design-wise from an energy position. I was like, wow, this house is going to be a lot to cool. We have 4 different AC units, 4 different cooling zones, right? So we can turn stuff off when not in use. Solid concrete interior. Don't ask about the insulation. But, you know, I'm like, wow. So many windows, letting a lot of heat in the front door. Like I would literally sit in the TV room in the sun. If you touch the front door on a summer day, it would burn your hand. That's how much heat I could feel penetrating through. And the sunlight, I actually had to, let me tell you what I did. Every single window in my home, I spent the money, and yes, it was an investment. But again, I'm thinking invest it now on the front end, or you're going to pay for it over time with a higher CUC bill. So I said, let's tint these windows because there's like 20 something windows in this house, plus sliding glass doors and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy. Okay. So we tint the windows. You know that front door that I was just telling you about that is super hot to the touch? Do you know that we had to tint it multiple times because the glass pane and initial tinting of that did not help, but a little bit. It was still hot. The light was still coming in. I'm like, what the hell? The tinting guy's like, wow, we got to cover this again. It's unbelievable and shocking. I went through and changed every single, because for a brand new house, even 8 years ago, not a single LED light in this house. I'm like, who builds a house like this? Right? So your contractors are not thinking about being energy efficient at all. So if you're looking to purchase a house, to buy a house, this better be one of the questions that is on the top of your list. How energy efficient is this house? Tell me about the CUC bill. Have there been any changes to try to, if you didn't do it at the construction phase, sometimes there are things that you can retrofit to try to make it a cooler, more energy efficient home. What are those things that have been done? How have you done it? Once again, we are cognizant, right? That I never got the benefit when the government was doing the whole payback thing the other day, giving you all, a rebate on your CUC bill when you fall below a certain wattage, because I know for a fact that we are not considered the average consumers. When it comes to electricity, we consume a lot. That's why you will never hear me actually complain about my CUC bill, because I know I'm using the energy. I don't have any qualms about CUC isn't like stealing money from me. Sorry, I pay for what I use. You know how I know what I'm using? Because we have installed that system on all of our major appliances that tells me exactly what my usage is. So when CUC sends me a bill, I'm not sitting here going, oh yeah, they're jacking up the prices on me, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. Because I can go in at any given time and have a look at what is being used, log into the system, look at my usage, the whole works, it's all there. I'm trying to remember the login now. But anyway, trust me when I tell you it's all there, right? And it tells you every single device. And there's some devices, folks, that actually will shock you in terms of what is using. So 70% of your energy in any given home is coming from your AC units. So you want to save money? You want to see the difference? I would challenge anybody, right? Turn off your AC for an entire month and then let me see your bill. Even in the heat of summer, turn your air conditioning off. Let me see your bill. And then let's talk. Let's see if CUC is really the problem. Just turn it off. 1 month. No air conditioning. I know y'all can't do it. I remember one day Sasha came on the show well over a year ago, and he was saying that one of the things that people need to do is to start using their fan in conjunction with the AC. Now, I have a fan in every single room, but it's more there for like the light fixture. I never use the fan. Let me be honest. I was like, turn on the fan. You mean when I'm sleeping? Because I find that I get congested. I'm like blaming the fans. I'm like, all right, let me try it. You know, I've been doing it since then. And although halfway through the night, I tend to get up and turn it off because I get a little bit too cool. I saw the difference exactly like he said. Like you can cool it down a couple extra degrees just by turning the fan on in addition to running your air conditioning. But guess what? I'm still under the covers. I'm under the sheets and another blanket and have the AC on because I can't, don't ask me. We can't sleep without covers. How many of you are like that? You could be hot. Every once in a while during the night, you kind of flip it off of you. And then before you know it, you roll back under. You have your temperature degrees lower than it needs to be so you can get under a comforter. Why? I'm like, that's just how we were raised. I don't know. I feel naked if I'm sleeping and I don't have sheets and a comforter over me. I'm like, what? I can't just sleep on top of a bed. But all of these types of decisions, they might sound simple to you, but it demonstrates how we are hoggish, for lack of a better word. We're hyper consumers when it comes to electricity. Of the entire Caribbean, we're using more energy than anybody else. And I don't mean a little bit more. What was the percentage again? It's a ridiculous amount. Why is that? Because we are primarily people who love a good air conditioning system. Good morning, caller.
Oh, hello. This is Sandra, right?
Hi. Yes.
All right. My name is Kevon Henry. I saw on your page that you had found my wallet, but I'm wondering where I can like find it.
Okay, I'll have to check with the other administrator who probably was the one who posted it because I didn't. So when was it posted?
About 3 or 4 days ago.
Mm-hmm. And it's Kevon. What's the name?
Kevon Henry.
Henry. All right. Let me just take down your information. I'm gonna just have her check it for you, and then get back to you on this. Yes.
All right.
Okay, no problem. Thanks very much. We'll be in touch with you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Bye-bye. Let me just take down his number real quick. Connecting people with lost items every day. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we have a part to play in this as well. And I think we're so fortunate. Evelyn raises her hand. She's like, yeah, that's me too, with the blanket and the whole 9 yards. You know, it's so interesting that as hyper consumers and as people who've grown so reliable, like somebody takes out a light pole and, you know, the power goes out for a couple hours. We are the biggest complainers. You got to see the post on social media, 400 comments later. Y'all are like cussing and this and that. And blah, 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 blah. Y'all need to go live in some of these other Caribbean countries where they have rolling blackouts all the time just to be able to keep the power on. They purposely, and I'm not talking about the worst countries in the Caribbean either. I'm not talking about just Cuba, right? Which is one of the poorer countries in the region. blackouts and rolling blackouts where they take stuff off purposely. The utility companies have to take electricity off and provide it to other people for a certain amount of hours and then roll out another region and all those kind of things. We have never experienced that in Cayman. And so when you think about the growth of the customer base on the CUC infrastructure and the reality that that might just be right around the corner, again, I want to see how much complaining you guys are going to do when that starts to happen. Johan says it, compare them to the other service providers in the region. You guys don't want to have that conversation, because for us to have that conversation means that you would have to give CUC a lot of credit. Damien says Honduras every day, 2 to 4 hours a day. Are y'all complaining to anybody in Honduras about it? You know, who's gonna change it, Damien, in Honduras? Who's gonna make it better? No, the people there just become used to it and they're like, whatever, it's part of life. But here we complain about the quality of the service. We want it to be top notch and part with bigger countries, bigger scale countries like the United States of America, et cetera, et cetera. And in addition to that, we also want pricing that is, super low. We want to be able to burn our AC as much as we want. We want inefficient homes. We don't want to care about the environment. There's none of this stuff that we want to be able to take accountability for ourselves. Someone else made a very interesting observation. They said, in relation to the question of competition not being there, they said, please remind your listeners that the DART organization just bought Cayman Brac Power and Light. DART is also part of DECO, and DECO is in competition with CUC. They bid for some of the same projects that CUC has. So don't think that competition doesn't exist just because it's not obvious to you. Like Mr. Hughes said, the one area that they'll probably never get competition on because of just the logistics of it is the actual distribution. So the putting up the poles and stuff like that. You can't have 3 or 4 utility companies with 3 or 4 utility poles. That's not how that's ever going to work. Nowhere in the world does that happen. But that's on that side of things. When it comes to the actual generation, you better think carefully about saying that CUC doesn't have any competition. And what will competition look like? How will it improve the market? Some of you think that in terms of telecom, phone, that there's been competition has been, fantastic for this country. And sometimes you can see where it really hasn't been. Those same companies are fighting for the same, fixed number of customers. And they're trying to, I'll offer you this. I'm going to try and throw in this, and ask yourself about the quality of service. When you experience an outage from one provider, has competition helped in terms of that? They're fighting each other. Nobody, you still only have the one cable that they're sharing. And, they still claiming that they can't do any better with their service. They're trying to blame Flow, this, that. And I'm thinking, why are they blaming Flow for this? Because if there's an issue with the My One cable, everybody's having an issue, not just that particular provider. We've seen all kind of shenanigans in telecom that really and truly hasn't benefited the consumer. Prices have become more competitive and has come down. I remember the day when, Flow claimed that they couldn't lower any pricing lower than what they were. Well, we saw that indeed it has come down over time. Part of that is also the advances in technology. Let's also be very, very honest and clear. So there are times that competition can be useful in the common sense application of it. Like, competition is going to bring pricing down, but competition also does something to the quality of service that you get. And it's not always the best that's out there. Someone says, just tuning in, and a quick confidential thought. How can your thought be confidential? Didn't know that CUC had a monopoly on Solar Choice. They don't. So I'm not sure what you heard. You might have to rewind and go back and listen to the rest of the program to really understand how that will work. By the way, I'm going to get some information on this. And as much of a proponent as I am for rooftop solar, I've got rooftop solar myself. I can see where the benefit of the larger scale solar, it just makes sense. Like when you're talking about, scaling things and more people benefiting from it, right? So for example, if I live in a rental home, I don't have any say over putting solar panels on that house. And a lot of the homes in Cayman are rental properties. There's a lot when I lived in my before when I had my apartment, even from then I got a quote on solar. The rest of the people in the strata, no, we don't want solar. And so if they didn't want solar, me as a single unit owner couldn't just go put solar on my rooftop. And there's a lot of apartment complexes in Cayman. So you need to get people to agree as part of large communities. And, if you had the big solar farms, none of that would be a consideration. So that's a single reason why I never put solar panels on my apartment, because the rest of the complex was like, nope, because now it's going to impact our, roof structure. We don't really know the way that the roof was slanted. There wasn't much roof anyway, to be honest, because it was an older building. So the way that it was designed could potentially be a problem. There's a lot to think about and a lot to consider. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Sandra.
Hello.
Just a couple of points. Things to consider. There's no one silver bullet or magic, law that would fix this problem. And like something to consider when a developer is creating their product. First of all, everybody jumps on them same way they jump on CUC. Oh, you guys are so expensive. You guys are ripping us off. You're charging whatever. At the end of the day, a developer cannot build something that exceeds the market demand. So they will always price their point to make their maximum profit for sure. But also, too, at the end of the day, they need to know that it is at a price point where there will be buyers. Now, a good majority of apartment developments, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe not a good majority, but a significant amount of apartment developments, these units are purchased as investments, as in rental property.
Yes.
So let's say hypothetically you or I purchased this unit. We're not really going to care too much whether or not that is energy efficient because we're not paying that bill.
Right. We're passing that on to somebody else.
Exactly. And then that's where the developer gets to do his sales point to say, hey, I can sell you this apartment, quote unquote, cheap. Well, it's cheap or cheaper because they didn't put in the prerequisite insulation factors, with that being windows, walls, and roofing insulation, and standing seam and the likes. The double-edged sword we have here to develop something that is robust across the board for, and again, this is a political thing, so politicians will be the ones blamed for making these kind of requirements, is that you say, okay, let's do a building code that requires ICF walls, which is known to be the most efficient wall in terms of insulation, and we're going to have spray foam. I mean, as it is now, it's required to either have hurricane shutters or impact-rated windows. That drove the cost of the buildings up exponentially in itself, apart from all market rates and supply chains issues and all that. So they go ahead and they do that. Then all of a sudden, everybody's priced out of the market. It can't be afforded. And as the years pass on, right now, what we're seeing a trend in here is that our young Caymanians, and my son's 26, my daughter's 22, they live overseas and getting international experience. But they're also looking at the markets here and they're going, I don't think we're going to ever be able to buy something here unless I'm fortunate enough for you parents to help me out. And that's if I'm fortunate enough to be able to help them out. So it's that vicious cycle. And again, back to the point of, there's no one single solution to do this. But what I can say too is that as long as there is cheap labor available in such abundance, and it's so cheap to acquire this cheap labor, i.e. permit fees, then our children are going to be not going to be able to command more of a higher salary than the cheap labor. Because why would a business go and say, yeah, I'll pay you $5,000 a month when I know I can get a Filipino for $2,500? These and by the way, it's cost me $1,500, $2,000 a year for their permit. It's still cheaper. And so it's when you start zooming out and looking at the overall holistic picture, it's a yarn ball. It needs untangling. And part of this is the National Development Plan. But we have settled into a mentality of being reactive as opposed to proactive.
Absolutely.
Because proactive requires you to sit down and have honest conversations with the electorate. But unfortunately, the electorate will come from a different number of perspectives, and that is, listen, I can't afford to take any more, so I don't want to hear what you have to say. And if you're going to tell me it's going to cost me more, I'm not going to vote you back in. Then there's the ones that are not educated and they're only worried about day to day, so they don't even care about the future. Why am I going to look at the future when I need to look at today? And so, what the answer is trying to do better as we can, but it's not going to be a fix across the board. There has to be real conversations. But as long as these things fall under quote unquote a political in the political sphere, these politicians, at the end of the day, they want these jobs, and to do that, they have to stay elected. So they will not necessarily ensure all of this. So your comments about the planning department and inspection, the building control department, and what they let things go through. Listen, nobody. I've been doing this for 36 plus years. Nobody is more irritated with these departments than I am, and I'm sure some of them are irritated with me. And that goes across the board. That's the industry. Everybody can do better, and but that's the point I'm about to make, is that we are human. So there may be some inspectors that have missed stuff, but it's also at the end of the day, which comes back to all political. We don't have a builder's registration set up yet. We don't have an architect's registration set up yet, and that's all comes back down to politics.
Yeah.
Because
some years ago, weren't they looking at trying to make some improvements in the area of construction where people had to be registered, and you couldn't just be a fly-by-night operator?
That's what I'm saying. And what drove that to the fore, in large part, because this thing has been going on since as long as I've been in the business, and I've been in the business since 1985. So, but in earnest since 1987. But I will say that yes, and when Ivan hit, and all these fly-by-night cowboys came in, and or were here, and brought in just manual labor, but they don't really know. Anybody can swing a hammer. Anybody can paint a wall, and anybody can mix cement. Nobody knows. Not those people don't know how to do it properly. They don't know the science behind it. And when you know the science behind it, then there's a very different result, and therein lies the problem. So yes, in your instances that you brought up there, some plumbers they're lazy. They'll cut corners, but you can't sit there and watch over everybody's shoulder. And so I haven't been in the business, haven't been there, done that in the construction business. I can tell you, it's not a business that I enjoyed. I did well out of it, and I got out of it because I was driving myself crazy, going back and having to redo stuff that my sub-trades would do, and I couldn't pass that on to my customers. Some people try to hide it and do it. I didn't. The point was that you keep hiring and firing people. But at the end of the day, everybody, human nature being what it is, they're trying to do it for as cheap as possible so they can make as much as possible and be damn the end user. And that is a sad fact of the matter.
Yep. And it's always the end user that will pay for it in one way or the other in the end.
Yeah.
So there you
but
go.
One last question that I had. I don't know if it was addressed because I went into a meeting, but I did notice that there's a number of quarries that are either no longer being used, or certainly sections of them are not. And had CUC investigated or looked into the possibility of using that by using floating solar panels?
So I didn't get to, Eddie, I didn't get to ask your question on air because there's quite a few questions coming in, but I have sent it across, and they have replied to say, yes, it's a viable option that's actually being considered.
Yeah, because to me, it's kind of asinine to chop down, and I'm not saying this about CUC because at the end of the day we have to look at, but it's kind of asinine to chop down trees to put down solar to be green. I mean, that's a contradiction in terms. And if we have quarries that are still in use, but sections are not, no longer, and then there's some that may have been totally closed down, now they've been used up, we can put them there because it's done all around the world to very, very large extents. So I thought to myself, well, there'd be less money in clearing the land and maintaining the land because grass and bush grows. So you're going to have to keep on these things trimmed. Whereas if it's on the water, then their maintenance changes. So, and I think maybe even less because they're slightly more recessed, less susceptible for uplift, but all that's engineering. But hopefully they will consider that, and I hope DOE considers that when they're doing their assessments and giving their recommendations for approval. Not, but that, I'll leave you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And let's keep in mind, folks, that a lot of this, there is the political element that I think a lot of people are ignoring. So just like a lot of general consumers are not well informed, sometimes including myself, simply don't appreciate certain things. And the same rhetoric that we've heard over and over again, we buy into as being the truth when it isn't. You know, politicians are guilty of the exact same thing as well. How many of them, despite the fact that the government of the day would have sat down and signed, the new agreement with CUC, still think that there is an upward possibility of CUC getting a 15% return. And that has changed 16 years ago. And there's still MPs now who are elected to office who go out there and put in their public discussions that, oh, yes, there's still this 15% return because they're trying to pander to you, the voters. On the behind side of that, they're also pandering to developers who don't give a darn about the environment. So Rough Seas, I've been seeing your comments about, we need to have people who are using over 4,000 kilowatts pay triple the bill. On what basis? I mean, are we expected to do that just because they're using it, but they're paying for what they use? So you want them to pay extra because you think that they should carry the load for the environment? But efficiency-wise, I'm still more efficient than someone who has a 1,200 square foot house. So just because I do use a bit more because I operate a business from home, I'm multiple businesses, in fact, I'm home a bit more. I've got a server room that has to run 24/7 at certain temperatures. There's very, very specific things why, like I said, I don't complain about my CUC bill because I know why my CUC bill is what it is. You've got people who have none of that going on. Just have kids opening the fridge 24/7, have nothing to say they've even attempted to be energy efficient, but they're paying more than me, to be clear. They're still paying more than me because they're less energy efficient, but because I use more, you're saying that I should be penalized, which I don't think we use that much, but I'm just saying. You're saying that people should be penalized because they're bigger users? I don't know that I agree with that at all. Everybody has to do their part. So Rough Sea says, do you think because you can afford it makes it right? That I can afford what? To be more energy efficient? I just gave you an example of a single parent homeowner who could afford it, but she made a decision not to be energy efficient. She went with the aesthetics of having her countertop look good. I actually invested money on window panels and doing as much as I could to try to keep the home cool, changing out lights and that sort of thing. So what you're saying doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying that I sit here and run my AC 24/7 just because I can afford it. In fact, I don't. I probably run it less than the same people who complain about their CUC bill every single month. Because just because I can afford it doesn't mean that I want to spend it on CUC. I have more important things to spend my money on, and it's not CUC. So 4 units, one stays on until showtime at 10:30, and then it gets shut off because I can't be in the studio sweating on air. And that's it. There's no AC running during the day in my house. What are you talking about? Let's pick sense of nonsense. Everybody has to do their part. And y'all need to look at your bill and understand what your bill actually says, what your usage is like, and make some adjustments. Just because you have a smaller home does not mean that you're being energy efficient. I know people who drop, right now I'm in the process of changing out my thermostats. By the way, anybody who wants to buy a smart thermostat, I'm going to have 3 of them for sale. Link me, good price for you. I'm in the process of changing out all of our thermostats. You know why? Because I don't want anybody being able to drop the temperature below a certain number. With these newer smart thermostats, I can set it, and you can't even see the numbers below that. There's a reason why I'm doing that. If you have rental units, once you've made your place energy efficient, installing one of these thermostats is probably a good idea. Help the people, although they're paying the bill, because they'll sit there with AC down at 70 degrees talking foolishness about why is my AC bill so high? Why is it at 70 degrees? Get yourself one of these smart thermostats where you can lock it in and say you can't go below 78. I bet you then they'll find something else to complain about other than CUC. Because keep in mind, you dropping it all the way down, somebody says this rough seas person sounds like an ass. Well, you can drop your temperature down as low as you want. And we've already seen the numbers that, in fact, that just overworks your AC, but it's not cooling your place any quicker. These are the types of things that, once again, it's all about educating people. We have a person on WhatsApp that said, in relation to the contribution, that said, my bill jumped. I checked my billing period last month. It was 29 days versus this month, which was 31 days. Please, people need to know how to read their bills. CUC also provides that information. CUC also gives back to the community and spends money training Caymanians. Again, they have one of the highest rate of Caymanian hired employees on the entire island. I think it's about 84, 85%. I'll have to double check my notes, but I do have that information available. Oh, somebody's asking about one of the thermostats. I'm giving you a good price because trust me, when you see how much online they're going for, good price just for you. Okay. Sandy, yes, I read that one already. Some people are just in the comment section to be contradictory, and I've 2024, I've just grown to accept that that's just how some people are. I say one thing about being energy efficient and whatever, and they hear something totally different. And you know what? What you gonna do? Who cares? They're certainly not paying my CUC bill or any other bill. So honestly, who cares? Who cares? The point that I'm trying to make, talking about my own energy consumption, is that I accept that I'm a high-end user. That's why I pay for it and I don't complain. And at the same time, I've taken all of the possible steps that I can take, including solar panels and everything else, to try to be as energy efficient as I possibly can, knowing that either way you slice it, I would be considered a higher end user. And yes, there are multiple reasons for that, including the fact that I am a business owner that needs certain equipment and I'm utilizing my home right now. I thought about this, and it's one of the reasons why I gave up my retail space, because I was there paying one rate to CUC, water bill, rent, cleaning, all these other expenses. And then at home, I have a whole set of household related expenses. And when I started to look at it and I did the cost benefit analysis of having a separate retail space, because there came a point in time when it was like, do I really need to be spending thousands upon thousands of dollars each month on a separate retail space, including one of those things being a CUC bill, which I had no control over. My landlord had an older AC unit. God knows how old that was, at least 10, 15 years old. Wasn't the most energy efficient, but I can't tell my landlord in a retail space, oh, go and upgrade the AC and make it more energy efficient so I could save. So, there were times when the bill for that 1,200 square foot place that I was trying to keep warm was more than my house, which is 4,000 square feet. This is what I'm telling you all. It's not about always the square footage. It is about the things that you've done to be more energy efficient. And so I have amalgamated those two into one by now using my home space as also my workspace and my office. And the savings have been really quite good. Miss Elaine says the cost of living is really high. The math just not mathing with our salaries. And Elaine, you'd be surprised to know that we're not unique in that regard. All over the world, there are struggles in relation to that. In fact, I'm going to get you guys some information on a thing out of California as it relates to solar, because they were also doing the whole thing with incentivizing homeowners to have their, put rooftop solar. And they have now had to cancel that project because it started to have the reverse effect than what they wanted. I'm going to get you the details on that because I don't want to misstate anything. So give me some time to collate that information. But I can tell you that they have had to cut their home solar program for a good reason. Sometimes we just look at a singular thing, think that's the solution, and y'all don't keep up with what the trends are saying around the world and what the industry is up to. And so that is not always the solution, none at all. I want to invite you to go to CARELAC, which is the Caribbean Association for all of the utility companies. And you can download their comparative, they do an annual report. The Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation, CARELAC, is an association of electric energy solution providers across the region. These are all the stakeholders in both the Caribbean and Central and South America and globally. And if you have a look at their 2022 report, which is the year that they have the last report available for, I think it's on page 43. No. 40, hold on. Page 40, page 40, 42. I was close, one page off. All right, if you look at page 42, we've looked at these graphs before. You can actually see the comparisons by region, not just by region, sorry, by country in the region of how we do. And, once again, there is this bit of misinformation that's out there that we're the most expensive in the region. And the truth of the matter is we are not at all. No, no, and no. There are countries who are less reliable and way more expensive than we are when it comes to providing utilities. So go and download this document. Again, this is the, let me see, their annual report for 2022. The 2023 one is not out as yet. Go to page 42. And I think they used to do it. They've kind of changed it. Why is Zeus at my door scratching the door? Hi, Zeus. I see you. I hear you. I don't see you, but it looks like I'm going to have to let him in. But they talk about, for example, the tariff, which is like the duty that's charged for residential consumers. They talk about, let me just scan this out a little bit. The residential consumer typical bill amount. Again, CUC. Oh man, I'm so sad that they've done the graphs this way because they used to have the graphs like completely separate and they were easier, I think, to pull out. So I might play around with trying to pull these out. But hold on one second. I'm going to show you guys one here just as an example so that you can, go read this document for yourselves. I keep telling y'all, go read it for yourselves. I'm here to tell you the source of the information. And then I encourage you to go and educate yourselves. Don't take my word for it, honey chia. But here we go. This is residential customers' typical bill in US dollars. Look at CUC. Look at CUC. Look at the countries that are way higher than us. Now I'm going to count just visually, count along with me. The first country that's ANG, which country is that? I'll have to get all the names because some of them are abbreviated. But that one is higher. The second one isn't. The third one is higher. Fourth one, Belco is higher. The next two are not. BVI higher. Dominican, I guess that's Dominica, higher than CUC. Fortis TCI higher. The next one looks on par with CUC. The next one's lower. Green LEC, I don't know what company that one's higher. JPS higher, that's Jamaica. St. Lucia, I guess, is this one. That's higher. The next one, I'm trying to visually, that one looks lower than CUC. Next one is higher. Next two are low. And the next one is higher. So I've counted 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on one second. Let me let Zeus in so he don't scratch at my door. Because God knows ain't nobody got no money to be repairing no doors around here, Zeus. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Hold on, honey child. You see what happened when you got dogs and children? Ugh.
Do you own a 1996 to 2016 Honda vehicle? There is an ongoing urgent safety recall regarding faulty Takata airbag inflators in Honda vehicles in the Cayman Islands. As affected vehicles get older, a combination of high temperatures and humidity can affect airbag inflators with the fault. If you're involved in a collision, the airbag can go off with too much explosive force, causing sharp metal fragments to shoot out and kill or seriously injure people in the vehicle. To check whether your vehicle is affected, go to HondaCayman.com/recalls. Honda will replace any defective airbag inflators completely free of charge. Contact the Car City service team to arrange this. Please take the time to check if your vehicle is affected by this urgent safety recall by going to HondaCayman.com/recalls now.
Taste of Cayman is back with a side of black-eyed peas. Friday, April 12th. The Food and Drink Festival on April 13th. Bundle tickets and save. Don't miss out on the culinary and chef demos. Delicious food and drink from over 25 vendors. Caymanian cultural performances. Live music, mixology, and more. Taste of Cayman is presented by DART with the support of many valued sponsors. Buy your tickets at tasteofcayman.org.
All right, folks. Welcome back. So yeah, I've counted at least 1, 2, 3. Oh, Jesus. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of these regional countries where their residential consumers are paying more per kilowatt hour for the month than us here in the Cayman Islands. So again, consider the facts. You know, it is what it is. Zeus, what are you going on with today? I don't know what this dog is doing. I'll pull some of these out and we can talk about, we can talk about these and, hello, sir. May I help you? Hi. How can I help? Do you have to go outside? Where's Miss Stacy? Zeus. Hello, sir. Do you have to go outside? You got to go pee-pee? You do? Okay, let's see if we can find Miss Stacy, because I don't know. He was scratching at my door all this time trying to get in. Hello, sir. You okay? Oh, my goodness. It's like having a baby. He's barking, trying to tell me something's going on. He either wants some attention or he has to go to the bathroom. Maybe it's a bathroom break. You have to go to the bathroom? You gotta go outside? You need to go for a little walk? Oh, my little tweetums. So yes, we got to get him to go outside. So y'all notice his training collar? He needs a bathroom break, says Debbie. Do you have to go to the bathroom? I see him eyeing my food on the table. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Stop looking at my food. Stop looking at my food. I see you. You're gonna steal my food. So yes, you know, these are things that anybody has access to, and you can certainly have a look at them. Say hi to everybody. Says hello. Hello, y'all. How y'all doing? Hello. All right, let's talk about a few more things. We got a little bit of time left in the program, just 5 minutes, really, 6 minutes. And there are a few things over the weekend. There was a boat fire. I guess you guys saw that posted on social media down in Newlands off of the bypass there off the East-West Arterial. We haven't heard anything official from the police as yet in terms of what is causing that, or what caused it, I should say. It looks like it is an area where they dump stuff, which is very, very concerning because we keep talking about our environment. When we talk about the environment, y'all need to stop dumping stuff all over the place and not properly disposing of it. So it looks like it's one of those areas where I'm going to give him a little piece of sausage. I don't normally give him human food, you know, but we're going to make a little exception today. There seems to be an area where they're dumping like old chairs we saw in the background. Let me just pull it up here if you guys saw this. So something caught that boat on fire. I don't know if this was instantaneous combustion or what happened here, if somebody purposely set it. But again, this looks like an area where there's just a bunch of debris and garbage and, you know, stuff strewn around the place. So the Cayman Islands Fire Service was out there trying to extinguish the flames as quickly as they can. A lot of you sent me pictures of the pluming smoke in the sky because at first you had no idea what this was or what was going on. Turns out it was a small aircraft that was on fire. So I guess we'll hear whether or not this was a deliberate fire that was set or what the situation is. I don't know. But what a hot mess, honey child. Thanks to the Cayman Islands Fire Service. But you can see all the other stuff there. We just saw here, there's like an old chair, looks like, and some other metal looking things. This is not a dumping ground. I'm sure of that. I'm sure it's not intended to be that. And so again, when we talk about the environment, you can't just talk about, the size of your house and the imprint that you're making there. Everything from recyclables, what you're doing with your garbage, where you're throwing out things that you no longer use, how much you can repurpose and all that kind of stuff. It's like, come on. So Stephanie says Rough Seas is correct. We are paying in CI dollars, but y'all need to pay attention because in order to make it apples to apples, let's bring the graph back up again. I really wish some of y'all would pay attention in class. In order to compare apples to apples, they've done the conversion and they've kept everything in US dollars. It isn't about some of these countries are paying in US dollars and some are not. They've taken whatever currency it is that they're using, CI dollars, pesos, Guadalupe, blah, 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 whatever. They've converted it all to US dollars and done this graph and this comparison across the board in US dollars. That's why it says specifically the comparison is in US dollars. Okay? It's not that every country on that list doesn't have their own currency or whatever. Lord have mercy. Did I say aircraft? My apologies. I meant to say boat. Yeah, I need y'all to pay attention just a little bit this morning. Nobody said that our bill is in US dollars. What this means, allow common sense to seep into the discussion. That they have, CARELEC, in order for comparison purposes, have taken the billing and the information and converted everybody's into US dollar. Otherwise, it would not be a fair comparison. Do y'all think that these people are really that stupid? Lord Jesus, come on. What the hell? Oh, God, some days. No, sir. Some days y'all just challenge me like, what the heck? There was one about usage. That's the one that I want to find. So I'm going to try to find these other graphs because this one here is about tariffs and typical bills. So there's others that looked at usage. And I can tell you that the usage graph, yes, please take Zeus. Go on, go outside. Go outside, go on. Now he doesn't want to leave. Go on.
No, come.
If you have to use the bathroom, go on. This dog is something else. So yes, there's one here with the usage graph. I'll try to get those graphs again because I do think that they're really important. And of course, the one area in which we do lead by a significant number is in the graph demonstrating the usage. We are heavy users and we have to own that. And perhaps, like I said earlier, that is where we need to make some adjustments. Like I said, unlike most of you, even during the summer, I'm not sitting home with my AC burning during the day. It gets turned off. Yep. So, what a hot mess. All right, folks. What else were we going to talk about today? I think we kind of ran out of time on some of these topics, so we'll pick them back up tomorrow. Oh, yes, I got to tell you guys about my colonoscopy. I did do it. And so we're going to walk through it. Let's do that on tomorrow's show. I want to talk about standards of justice. I need to update you guys in a couple court cases as well. Ugh, what a hot mess. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Rough Seas, that information is not from CUC. So please, let's get it together. Lord have mercy. Are y'all not paying attention? I said it was a CARELEC report. You know what? Y'all not paying attention today. I don't give a damn. I don't care what. Let me click off the radio. Y'all are not paying attention. Pay attention. I said it was from CARELAC. Comparing the Caribbean is not a CUC report. How can y'all engage in intellectual conversation and hope to put together? I know, right, Damien? Damien's like, OMG. What the fuck is wrong with you people? You're so blinded by your hate and your dislike that you can't even listen. I'm asking you to go look at the report for yourselves. Pay attention to at least where you can go for the information, because I know you're not going to go source it for yourselves. You just want to put out misinformation about OCUC gets a 15% return on their investment. And for the past 16 years, that's not even been in their contract. Let's just be fair to people, whoever they are. Yes, they've come on here and they have provided information. They provided their position. But anything they have said, you can go and fact check for yourself. You can do the relevant research. 2% of you will go away and do any research at all. The rest of you are going to just keep talking fuckridge all day long and don't get your facts together. People, please. Right? At least. This person says people are so fucking stupid. I mean, some of y'all really do challenge my patience. I know a lot of y'all be like, girl, you got the patience of Job. No, I don't. I'm not interested in having the patience of Job. Y'all need to go read. So let me repeat it again for those of you who have clearly not been paying attention, or you would never ask such a question. CARELAC, which is the Caribbean Electric Utility Service Corporation, is an association of electric energy solution providers and other stakeholders operating in the electricity industry in the Caribbean, Central, South America, and globally. Okay? That's who CARELAC is. They have an entire website with all sorts of information. They do an annual report. The last annual report from 2022 have some comparative graphs in there. I think the previous ones had better graphs, but anyway, I'm going to go through the whole report. The report is a total of, let me tell you how many pages, because y'all need to go and read it. It's a total of 76 pages. And it compares the local regional providers in the Caribbean across all sorts of different things, usage, et cetera, et cetera. Go away and read the document. I'm going to give you the link. It is available on their website. There you go. It is not produced by CUC. Understood? It is an independent body. My God. Lord Jesus. Garrett says, Sandy, you got more patience than me. Usually and immediately just quiet and cast them aside once you once they prove themselves other than an intellectual conversation. Well, you see, this is a problem, Rusty's. It says you can say whatever you want. It's not what I'm saying or what I want to say. Again, you got to stick with the facts. So you see in all their cronies is a bunch of mafia. Well, if that is your position and that's going to be your conclusion no matter what, then why even tune in when CUC's on? You see, you're the kind of person that really shouldn't even listen on a day like this because you're not going to be interested in any of this information. You just want to make your 50 comments in the comment section and that's that. I mean, it just is what it is. Scott says, think about someone you know who has average intelligence, not a genius, not a moron, just average. 50% of the people walking around are dumber than them. And listen, I'm not here saying that I have no big time IQ on par with Einstein or anybody else. But one thing for sure that you can't step to me with is I believe, and this in part is the education that I have acquired has taught me to ask questions, and more importantly, not just ask questions and take somebody's word for it. When somebody says X, I'm going to go, oh, really? Okay, let me ask some more questions, and then I'm going to go away and have a look and research it for myself. And that is a trait that I think has, steered me fairly well in life. in terms of making better decisions. And it's something that I encourage everyone to do. If I can do it, there's nothing special about me in that regard. So can you. It's like last night, somebody sent me this about I think it's in relation to the solar eclipse, but then I was a little bit confused. So they sent me this. I see some of y'all are calling down all kind of Jesus, this and that about this solar eclipse, as though we haven't had a solar eclipse before. Now we have the science to understand what solar eclipses are, and y'all still connecting it to, the spirits are aligning in the day. I'm like, y'all need to just give it a break. So somebody sent me this about tonight from 12:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Do not forget to turn off your cell phone, tablet, computer, etc. Place it very far away from your body. Singapore TV announced this news. Please tell your relatives and friends, blah, 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 because apparently your planet's going to have very high radiation. Cosmic rays. I was like, really? Okay. So it doesn't make any sense logically from what I know. But I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and have a look and look this up anyway, which I did. And of course, it's a bunch of baloney, essentially. No such thing goes so. Right? And it's just shocking that people still circulate this stuff and they actually believe it. They're asking me, who I have a responsibility, because there are a lot of people who are just going to take what I say at face value, I suppose, to share this information. I said, well, before I can share it, I need to fact check it. And of course, this particular viral message is a hoax that has been going around for a very long time, dating back years. And it's all fake and false. There's not an ounce of truth to it. Nobody has reported this. No reliable sources that says, Singapore TV and BBC and all this kind of stuff. They just throw those names in there to try to get you convinced that this is legit. Well, I went back and I fact checked it. And back in March of 2021, it was being circulated then. And then it was an old hoax on Thai social media, warning people to turn off their phones due to harmful cosmic rays passing Earth. Again, a bunch of hogwash. Okay? So it was published then, it was old then, and it's being recirculated and we'll publish again. So, all of the experts from the National Astronomical Research Institute of Thailand said this warning is fake. The Academic Services Division said it's fake. It's called pseudoscience. It doesn't even make any sense. So although it contains certain scientific terms that are used in a manner that lack an understanding of the scientific principles. This is what was said back in 2021. He explains that cosmic rays, which are emitted from the sun, or from cosmic events outside of our solar system, such as black holes or supernova, can affect electronic devices such as computer chips and satellites. However, that does not mean that the rays will affect our bodies in the same way. Cosmic rays are high energy particles that move through space at nearly the speed of light. So cosmic rays pose little threat to humans and systems on Earth. And they go on to say the European Space Agency explains further that Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere protect us from the constant bombardment of galactic cosmic rays. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Yeah, but Sandy, I listened to news last night and they say that you should not look at it with your bare eye. And
no, that's a different situation.
Be careful snapping picture with your cell phone too, because it can damage it. They said that. I don't know.
That's very different. And that is good, salient advice. Thank you, Honey Chia. I appreciate the call.
They said that.
Yeah. No, and you shouldn't look at it direct. And let me tell you all this. This isn't pseudoscience. Looking directly at the sun, to be honest, even on a normal day, you should probably be careful. But during a solar eclipse, this is not something that you want to do, okay? In fact, let me tell you something that you will find interesting. There is a young lady here in the Cayman Islands. I don't want to give away too much stuff about her. She's a child. She's actually losing sight almost 100% in one of her eyes. Initially, her parents didn't know what was going on. Now they've got a definitive on what is happening to her. And the cause of it is likely her just looking at the sun, maybe during one of these events directly, is what the eye experts at Bascom Palmer have actually told her parents. So if you have children and they want to go outside and you've been telling them about this solar eclipse, you need to ensure, right, that they understand that it's not safe to look directly at the sun without specialized eye protection for solar viewing. Now, there is an exception to that. It says, except during the brief total phase of a total solar eclipse. I would even put the exception in there because your children might not know exactly when that phase is. So make sure you instruct them, do not look directly at the sun. If they want to get some glasses, I hear Camana Bay is doing a thing with the Astronomical Society later on. You can do that, but staring straight at the sun during even a partial solar eclipse can cause damage, permanent damage to the retina. And this can also cause blindness or solar retinopathy. Yeah, that's close enough. So make sure, folks, that you are aware of this. And in fact, hospitals around the world who are going to, see this phenomena today, right around midday, are in high alert for increased traffic because of the potential mass casualties caused by this event and eye damage. So you can go and again read up on that. But hospitals are preparing because they said there's always this massive enthusiasm for these total solar eclipse. I think this is the first one that we've had in like 7 years or whatever. So you're going to have millions of people flocking around big cities and small towns to witness Monday's eclipse. And hospitals have increased their ability to take on additional traffic because of this. Whether Cayman hospitals have or not, only God knows, but I'm just telling you what's happening elsewhere in the world. So eclipse fervor will especially strain understaffed healthcare systems in rural towns, but that may not have dealt with an event of this scale. So take it upon yourself, protect your children. If you want to view it, you've got to get the proper eyewear to be able to do so. All right. The Federal Health Department in the US, for example, has issued a 17-page preparedness booklet that offers healthcare providers guidance and everything from eye safety to helicopter rescues to lessons learned from the last total eclipse, that they had in 2017. So, just be careful. Don't go out there staring at it. Okay, that's your best advice, really. What else can I tell you? When is it safe to take your eclipse glasses off? So the path of totality, we're only going to see, I think, like 40% or whatever of this, but the path of totality will pass over parts of 15 states in the US and should completely engulf several major cities in darkness, including Dallas, Indianapolis, and Cleveland. It's only safe to view the eclipse without protection in places in the path of totality, and only during the brief period when you can't see any part of the sun whatsoever. But again, I would say just keep the glasses on. All right. Keep eclipse glasses on, even with a partial eclipse. A lot of people outside of the path of totality, including us, and will instead see a partial eclipse, which means the sun looks more like a crescent. In those areas, there's no safe time. Listen carefully. In those areas, aka Cayman, there is no safe time to look at the sun with the naked eye. You must protect your eyes while watching the eclipse at all times. And this is coming from the American Academy of Ophthalmology. So please, you can get, in the States, they have a lot of people that have glasses available. And Cayman, I think some of the glass places have them for you as well. There's a lot of businesses like Warby Parker stores and stuff in the States that are giving them away for free. Sonic Drive-In apparently is going to give you, if you purchase a drink, a slushie, they're going to give you free glasses. Libraries across the U.S. also distributing free glasses as part of the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation funded solar eclipse activities for libraries. So, they get a lot of NPO funding and stuff like that. So yes, and the damage can be permanent. And so this young lady now in Cayman has lost a good deal of it, and eventually they expect her to go, unfortunately, completely blind in one eye. And then they're hoping it doesn't impact the other eye too much, but it's sad. I mean, she's a young child that's like maybe 8 or 9 years old, I think. And they have said that unfortunately she would have had some sort of sun damage to the eye, and that's what caused it. And I thought, oh my God, that's horrible. Oh, I felt so bad for her mom the other day. They had a bit of a situation where they're traveling overseas to try and get a proper diagnosis, and then there was issues with traveling, and oh man, very, very sad. I can't imagine. As parents, we try our best to protect our children, but part of protecting your children is just making sure that you yourself are properly educated. And so, yeah. What a mess. Ay. So sad. So please do your part. Educate yourselves first and foremost. It's not worth it. It's not worth, I remember when we were way back in the 7th grade, we had eclipses and all that kind of stuff. This is in the States. I can tell you what, as part of our science class, we used to go out and look at these things, but again, not without proper protection. So take your time, honey child. Take your time. None of it's worth going blind over. Your eyesight is very, very important. Okay. Johan, what are you up to? Miss Marquette says, I don't know when he coming, but I'm sure he is. Well, I can assure you that the eclipse has nothing to do with when the good Lord is coming. And apparently he is going to sit back and let the whole world just go to pieces before he decides to make an appearance. Because the days that I look at some of the foods just going on around, I'm just like, Lord, make your presence be known any minute now. And he's still chilling out. He's like, nope, let them fools do their thing on earth. And now they're looking to explore other celestial areas to go and destroy. Good Lord. What a hot mess. Damien says, looking directly at the sun during an eclipse at any time, for that matter, can cause retinal and ocular damage, leading to irreversible blindness or partial blindness. But even looking at the sun directly for a few seconds can cause irreparable harm. Good advice. No need to be staring at it, honey child. And the last couple of days, on Saturday in particular, I got to see the sunrise and the sunset because I went to do my colonoscopy. I had to get up extra early and go outside. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. The sunrise there's just something about a sunrise. Oh my gosh. Over the ocean. I was there. I went to Health City. I was there in East End, seeing it on the water as we were driving. I was like, wow, look at that beauty. Aliana says, how many times was Jesus supposed to have come back by now? Well, we can't tie it in to every single time there's like an event that can be explained. Andrew says, rough seas, we were paying 36 kilowatt we were paying 36 KY per kilowatt in US, and then Jamaica is at 45. It's actually, that's not correct, but Andrew, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get you the figures because I did ask for that slide. I'm going to get it for you, and I'm going to get it for you with the breakdown, right? So I will get that, tune back in tomorrow, and I'm going to get that with the breakdown. Now, here's the most interesting thing. Is one of the things I learned, and this is fascinating, and this is where, you got to pay attention. The devil, they always say the devil's in the details. Hold on one second. Yeah, they always say the devil's in the details, but do you know one of the reasons why Jamaica has a high and higher than us cost to consumers. I'll give you one guess. As a matter of fact, y'all still listening. We're in a little bit of overtime now. Call into the show. I'm sure I got something I can pick out of my prize cupboard here. I'm going to give somebody a prize today. If you can call me right now, 936-2626, and tell me what is this one singular reason that drives up the cost in Jamaica? Call me. 936-2626, honey child. I'm going to have a piece of sausage in the meantime while y'all think about it. Nope. Somebody send more people? Call in, honey child. Ain't got nothing to do with the number of people. Good morning, caller.
Did you get an answer yet?
Not yet.
I'm going to sound horrible, but I'm going to say it. I think it's due to the large amount of theft of electricity.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes. They steal it. And somebody has to pay for the stolen electricity. So that's spread out to the entire country, and they steal a lot of it, apparently. Their electricity could be, I think I'll double check my notes, but I think it could be something like 40% cheaper if they didn't have a bunch of hoodlums over there stealing power. And that drives up the cost for everybody.
But not only that, and I just want to put this out there as well, they also have a high incidence of fires, electrical fires, because of the poorly rigged systems that they're using to pipe and steal this electricity as well. So
yeah,
hope nobody around here gets any idea about that. But
listen, this is why sometimes when we talk about like some of these cases, people are like, oh, I don't care about that. I don't care about that case or whatever. It's like we should all care about general lawlessness and lack of compliance. Yeah. Whether you're stealing, because some people would see nothing wrong with stealing from a utility company. I remember the first trip that I took with my husband, and thank you, caller, which, by the way, hold on. Let me take down your information so I can grab your prize. Hold on. Let me just write it down here in my little chat window. I remember when I first went to Jamaica, and I was going to the country with my husband, and out in St. Mary, he was like, oh, his mom's like, oh yeah, the internet hasn't been working for, a little while. And I'm thinking, well, why doesn't your internet work? What's the problem? Like, did you guys have an outage, whatever? She's like, no, they keep stealing the copper. Thank you, caller. Yeah. I'll be in touch.
And that's also another thing. Bye.
Yes. And that's like the phone companies. So they steal every single time. Flow, they don't have Logic over there, but Digicel, whoever, would go and put in the fiber, right? The copper to get people internet. They would go and pull it out and steal it. And I'm like, how hard or easy is it to steal? What? I'm like, I'd ask Marlon, I'm like, well, where do they put it? Aren't they putting it in the ground? He's like, these thieves don't care. They managed to go and pull it out and go sell it. I'm like, they sell copper? He's like, yes, that has value. It blew my mind away because I did not even know that was a thing. I'm like, who does that? It's crazy. It is absolutely. I'm like the caller said, you hate to say it because we, Jamaican family members, whatever. But listen, the truth is the truth. They got some of the worst thieves and the most corruption in the entire region right there in Jamaica. From electricity to telecom to anything that not tied down and triple reinforced. And even then, they can find a way to steal it. No, sir. My God. And that is the singular thing that drives up their costs, where it is more expensive than our utility by like 40% or something ridiculous. Why they don't have it like maybe in the dollar amount is because, again, they got the mountains in Jamaica, cooler weather. Most people just don't have central AC in Jamaica, and I can tell you that for a fact. Because chill, you go in the country, you getting country breeze, and you better be satisfied with that. And that's it. You sitting there with your little fan, and in front of the fan, fanning yourself, and it is what it is. Manhole covers too? Lord Jesus, what a thing. Oh my God. I remember being very surprised. I'm like, they steal what? Same thing with fiber. You go put down fiber, they're going to steal that too. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. And of course, you know, the telecom companies is like, we can't lay it down quick enough before they're stealing it. And then entire regions have no internet because of it. I'm just like, wow, they don't even think about the poor people, because it's like poor people in the mountainous regions and in the outer regions, whatever, that really need this. And here they are stealing everything. Oh, my God. Congratulations, caller. Yes, it's the thievery of it all. No, sir. And when you think about it, one of the reasons as well is that they have actually had, you know, although their population is way bigger than us, 3 million people, they've also not been able to reinvest. So that's why I chuckle when people say, well, CUC is making how much money and they're reinvesting so much, blah, 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 blah. They have not reinvested as much in their infrastructure. And so their engines and everything else is aged beyond what should be. And that causes folks a lot of issues, reliability issues, and cost again, because if you're not running the most energy efficient engines to provide people electricity, you're going to have a problem there as well. Good morning, caller. Final call of the day.
Yeah, but sorry to call the second time, but copper is a big thing. The steels in the States too, you know, and around here too.
Yeah, I must say that the people who've done it around here have been relatively limited. And I did ask this question the other day of CUC because we were curious. And they say that one of the things is as soon as they discover it, and I think they probably do discover it fairly quickly, is they report it and it's dealt with through the criminal justice system. So remember that one guy who kept doing it over and over again? He was an electrician by trade.
Yeah, but that's why the bees are taking out of them ACs and things too, you know, and I know some border around here that used to send it to Florida to sell, and that's big money. Mm-hmm. One time when we were there, we seen there's an exchange close by where my brother-in-law and them used to stay, and we saw this big commotion out there with the police and stuff, and I asked him what happened. He said that they were stealing the copper. Mm-hmm. So now we're in Jamaica.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't have it in large scale, for sure. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen here, but we certainly don't have it large scale at all.
I say in America too. I don't know if they're still doing it, but I know they used to do it.
Mm-hmm. All right, my dear. Thank you very much.
Come for your fish or what?
Sorry?
You never got my message about your fish. You know what talking about.
Oh my gosh. You know what? He didn't message me. What day that was that he sent me the message?
Well, yeah, and if you do come get them, they're not gonna be where you want. So
okay.
You gotta try to get it today.
All right. I got message you. After the show, I'll call you.
All right. Okay.
All right. Okay, good. Yes, I did get the message. But it's been
their quality, they're not real, but I don't want to tell you when you come.
Okay. All right, my dear. Good. I'll see you. All right, folks, that's it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Lord have mercy. Magnum opus. We cannot head in that direction, but yes, point taken. So we'll talk about some of these topics and a few more on tomorrow's program. Congratulations to today's winner, by the way. But yes, it's a hot mess. What a hot mess. All right, folks. Y'all have a good one. Please be safe out there. Try to follow the laws of the country, traffic laws, whatever. Enjoy the eclipse safely, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.